Thank you very much for that, Xenox. Pleasure as always to work with you, or is it? I don't really know. I'm still I'm tossing it up in the air. But Raven, look, nevertheless, it's a do or die match for both of these teams. This is for a spot. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying it. It's for a spot in SI less than a month away. It is less than a month away now that we're going to see these teams head to Canada and play out what will be, I'm sure, a very interesting tournament. APAC have been building toward this, so I mean, one of these teams have the opportunity now.
They do, and that is, look, there's a bit of pressure on the shoulders, and this is their final chance, right? Like yesterday, at least when they had this BO3, there was still the second chance. There was the lower bracket, lose this one, okay, go next. There's none of that this time around. They have to win this BO3, otherwise that's it. No more chances. Yeah. So I think this is going to be about who can handle that pressure, who's going to be coming into this with, you know, that fresh, upbeat mindset, and sometimes that's just what makes me think Direwolves might have the edge here. They're just so good with dealing with pressure and just having a fun vibe.
One thing I will say that has always been a talking point for the likes of Invictus is the banning of, you know, things like the Monty that we've just seen. It takes away a pivotal role in terms of like how a match plays out, which one of the definite bans. Now, for me, like if you're banning Monty, you miss out on a whole variety of defensive bans on Villa. So it's 6 in one, half dozen the other. You back it up as well. I mean, sorry, attacking bans. I did not mean to say defensive bans there. I was actually looking at the clash halfway through that. The Monty ban coming out from Direwolves, that is typical when you're coming up against Invictus, and there's not many teams in the world that you'd actually see something like that in.
No, and I feel like that has got to be a massive lesson learnt yesterday for Direwolves. They just were menaced by Lunar Metal's shield plays. It was both the Monty and the Clash. I can picture many times, particularly on Chalet actually, where that Clash was so instrumental for Invictus, where Lunar Metal, he popped off, like he got multi-kills, he was up in their face, he really stopped Direwolves getting a lot of that forward progression. So look, I think it was a really well shield play in general from Invictus, which is what we have come to see and love from their game style. But we'll see how this turns out with the way the bans have panned out. Something I'm very excited about, we've started to see a bit of Osa here, Manic, and now Osa getting picked round 1 by Pika on the side of Direwolves. It's yeah, something that's very exciting to see. Oh, the other thing I just noticed actually is that Hysterics is going to be the Aruni, and I've been seeing some pretty exciting Aruni players as well. I really like that it creates just that extra element of, you know, you're going to have to clear the Surya gate, you know, like you have to think about that late round. If you don't save the utility for it, it can create those difficult moments. You can't just push straight to site, try and catch your opponent off guard.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think that's a really cool play. I don't know, it's something a bit obscure. We see a lot of Rooney, but I just really like to see that it's starting to be more of a mainstay in these Liz lineups.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And, you know, it is, we always see it with like the new operators that come in, right? Some teams start to play with it a little bit, and they check how viable it actually is in the competitive kind of scene, especially when you're talking about teams like this. So I do 100% see that it finds its place nice and calmly after what has been, I think it's been 2 seasons that it's been allowed in now. What is Direwolves? Direwolves have absolutely no fear whatsoever. Peak has been allowed to find the first pick. Raven, it might be game on from the get-go here. Joe shuts down Pika and doubles down onto ED as well. Geez, that is an explosive start for us.
Very Direwolves, and look, it's like I was saying, I felt like this is maybe what they might try to do here. This is what they did in Oregon. Obviously that was on defense though, on Oregon, but they want to get up and aggressive. They want to try and catch IG off guard. It's generally worked quite well. This one's fallen apart, unfortunately for them. It's now this 1v3 situation with Souffle. But I like the call. Like, it worked so well for them on Oregon yesterday.
Joe.
Hasn't worked out well on round 1 here, but I think it's a ballsy call. But yeah, I like it.
That was absolutely disgusting from Joe. I mean, that's 4 kills denying the entrance up Toms. You couldn't ask for more from Joe. And I mean, I love it because it comes to fruition what I was kind of touching on before when we were in the pre-show, the fact that he's been an incredible iteration for this roster. He has really stepped up to the mark time and time again, and that's the perfect example for you. You had, I think it was Jackie or Pika who was just sending it up top main. He manages to hold down the first two. If they lose control of Classical, they lose so much space. They get suffocated on site. You're then trying to play from the back of Games Aviator. It's honestly massive round from him. But we move forward now and we go across toward the second floor site, Stat Trophy, which don't really, I've really, like, if Direwolf's going to bring this kind of heat to Invictus from the get-go, one thing they're definitely going to need to be careful of, Raven, is the fact that Invictus are going to be ready for this. They're going to be waiting for this.
Yeah, and you would hope that that's the case after what happened yesterday. You know, they really shouldn't be losing to that kind of playstyle. And I mean, it's excusable for a couple of rounds, can catch you off guard, sure, but what Direwolves got away with yesterday on Oregon was just unbelievable. And you definitely, if you haven't seen the map, you'd have to watch it back to see what I mean. It was just round after round of sheer aggression, spawn peaks galore. So I'm really curious what Direwolves will do with this round. It didn't really work out that well in round one, sure. It could have though. I definitely felt like, I think it was Pika with that initial rush. Yep. I felt like he just overextended a touch. He also had Diffuser. So that's the other thing, is it was very hard for them to recover from that position at that point. They had to kind of commit, and yeah, look, Joe did a great job shutting it down. But I think overall it's a very strong indicator of the mentality of Direwolves coming into this series.
And one thing that I think is always interesting to note when you're talking about a side that brings so much aggression, and especially when you're looking at Direwolves' history in the last two matches that they've played, that's some really interesting intel that I'm sure Direwolves might capitalize on. But Hysterics has been able to find that kill. I'm going to hold that note for a second because already we are seeing Invictus fight back with fire. They're not at all interested in this game that Direwolves are trying to play. That aggression that they're taking, it might actually come back and haunt them in a certain aspect.
Yeah, and definitely a little harder to sustain on a map like Villa compared to Oregon. But the other thing is, you know, we didn't really see the re-aggression from IG yesterday when Direwolves were trying to do that. God. So it's great to see this nice and early. First,
Hysterics!
He's on a triple. This is unreal, Manic.
Jeez, that's a really nice trade from Souffle, though. Jackie Wu came up top main and was completely taking the attention of Hysterics. But 3 kills has pretty much sealed the deal. Jackie Wu. Shot through the wall. Luna goes down, and now in a 2 versus 3, Direwolves have time to reposition. They have time to compose themselves. But they really, honestly, you can't afford to leave the kid out on that balcony. They need to pick that up as soon as possible. Don't tank it. Don't tank it, Jackie. There is literally a window right next to you.
I loved that you could just see his thought process, and it took a little bit to the cog turning. But yeah, they've gone and recovered that diffuser. But 2v3. Certainly a winnable situation here on Villa. Still over a bit of a minute to play. They just need to find, if they get one more pick, it's certainly going to be a lot more comfortable. Not going to be easy. It's certainly going to be a much more comfortable situation for them to be in.
Souffle just poking around the site. Needs to be a little bit cautious here. This is the problem. Although they had all this time to work with, it is very quickly dwindling. This could be huge. Jackie, this could be absolutely massive. Just going to miss the mark. If it had been on the other side of the beam, it could have been a free opening kill. Still got time to make this work, but they need to be cautious.
They do, and this is some great smoking here from Speakeasy. He's really cutting off that trophy push. So now they have to funnel statue, and that's where the trap is. There are shields set up, there are players watching that guarded. It's going to be a tough 20 seconds, but that's a good start to the push in.
Certainly is. Jackie Wu looking to play a bit of peekaboo there, but it's inevitably Jordan that shuts that down with a quick double. Invictus are showing us that they are not just a one-hit wonder. This definition to the aggression they've brought into what has been the first 2 rounds are really holding Direwolves at bay. And it was something that we've noted multiple times before, even before this tournament had been played out, Raven. We were really mentioning the fact that it can just be so interesting in terms of how it plays out. But, well, it looks like there may well be a bit of a rehost imminent, or maybe we're just going to see some players reconnect and hope that that fixes the issue of what seems to be lag, I would presume. We had to say it though, didn't we, Raven? We were sitting here, me, you, and Xenox were sitting here, and we went, geez, yesterday was a breeze. We had no rehosts. We were all cool, calm, and collected. 2 rounds in, we've already got one. There we go.
We sure do have a rehost now. But yeah, look, I think those first couple of rounds, quite an interesting, indicator of how this series might go. Direwolves really not to get the aggression happening for them at this stage. Of course, only 2 rounds deep, but I think a really good sign here for IG is they kind of brought some aggression from their own, in particular off the back of Hysterics. That was an absolutely nutty triple kill that he got in round 2 there.
Crazy.
And on that first round, when Direwolves tried to get the aggression happening up the main stairs, really well shut down by Joe. So yeah, all some really big ticks from IG compared to how they were handling the Direwolves that we saw in Oregon yesterday.
And I think that's just an adaptation that they have to make. I don't think that they can afford to play around and allow Direwolves to manhandle them like that. I think another comment that needs to be made, and it was something I was going to say before Hysterics popped off with a 3K in that second round, is that it's much easier to tame aggression when the players are on the attacking side versus when they're on the defending side. It can be incredibly testing, if you will, when you've got a defensive side that are constantly spawn peeking, constantly flanking, roaming. They throw everything but the kitchen sink towards you. So if Direwolves had started out on defense, I would have found it incredibly intriguing to see the way that IG would have kind of stood into this game, whether they would have played with the same kind of aggression that they have already. But nevertheless, I think that the thing that I need to make comment on with this aggression that IG is bringing is it's calculated. It's not just, they're not just trying to find kills willy-nilly in just random parts of the map. It's quite methodical in the way that they've been able to do that with Hysterics. The like of Joe reaggressing back to Toms, I think, honestly, it has set this game up to be a potential quick 2-0. If IG can get off to a good start here on Villa, we head to Chalet next. I mean, I'm not, we're 2 rounds in and I hate doing this, but when we're in a rehost, it's always fun to theorize. If they're able to keep this pace up, I think they're going to have a hard time.
Yeah, and it's funny because I remember Dev and I kind of felt the same yesterday. Map 1 on Bank, IG shot out to like a 3-1 lead, and it was like, oh man, we really expected that Direwolves would be doing really well on Bank. We were like set that this would be a Direwolves Map 1 win, and then we'd see where the rest of the series went. I mean, eventually it did end up being a Direwolves Map 1 win, but yeah, IG started really strong. Direwolves looked a bit flat, and then they kind of got in the game and brought it back. So certainly hard to write them off early. I'm really curious actually how they're going to go on their defense half. So I think for me, a lot of this is just going to be about sticking with IG in this first half. Make it a 3-3 even. I think could be quite a good thing for Direwolves, because I tend to agree in the fact that what they want to do is probably going to work out better for them on defense. So if they can get through to defense with that even split, I think they've got a really good shot at being able to kind of edge ahead and get this map 1 win. But it's really just going to be about staying toe-to-toe with IG, because at the moment, these first 2 rounds, IG have certainly looked like the clear kind of team with the momentum, and they look like they're really switched on today.
And now I look to Direwolves and see whether they will adapt, because I think you keep bringing the same aggression you've already brought. IG have already found their way to tame it. You show face a little bit earlier on in the round, and you can afford to fall back. That's the big thing. When you are able to get that man advantage and fall back to site, you can burn so much more time. So I do think that Direwolves need to be careful here, regardless of any kind of conversation we're having about them at the moment. The fact that they're playing freely, the fact that they're playing with no pressure whatsoever, that's all good and well. There's still an opportunity to head to the biggest tournament in Rainbow Six, and one of the biggest tournaments in esports as a whole. So I think that it's a very clear indicator for me whether Direwolves are able to adapt or not. If you continue to throw this at IG on your attack, things are going to get very hairy. You got to remember, it's been the first 30 seconds of the first kill, even second kill has been found, which, I mean, if you told me that some time ago when I first started casting Rainbow Six, I would have told you you're barking mad. That never happens. But it has, honestly, it's been a conversation we've had many times. It has kind of evolved into that meta where teams are happy to get in the building nice and early, start to suffocate the defensive team back onto site, and kind of manipulate it from there. Really happy, though. If IG just... there's one thing you don't want to do if you're IG, which is overextend in that aggression. You know, you're already playing to a point where maybe we don't see it a hell of a lot from you, but if they start playing into it a bit too much, maybe there is a way in for Direwolves. Maybe they can slow it down and start to isolate those players that are, for example, looking for those opening picks. But nevertheless, it's really hard to tell with only 2 rounds. This is the thing that sucks, especially with a rehost, because we're left sitting here trying to and ah over what could and might happen. But on face value, I think you're right. IG are off to a blistering start, and it's just about whether Direwolves can slow or stop that bleeding and really maintain pace. Because IG, if they run away with this first half, I don't know. I don't think I would back Direwolves. Hates. It's you know what? It's probably the only team I would back to go into a second half 5-1 down and still win the map. So I don't know. It's hard, man.
Yeah, no, I totally get you. I've just been quickly looking back at some of the map results for Villa as well for Direwolves, because to remind you, like, this is Direwolves map pick, so it was quite a surprise. They don't have a lot of history on it. They have some recent history actually in the Wrecked Mex Gauntlet, Manic.
Oh,
they beat Chiefs 7-5 on it, in fact, and they also beat Q-Confirm in the qualifier aspect 7-3 on Villa. So there's some recent success on Villa. Not main circuit tournaments, but still, like, that's something. But in terms of main circuit, they did actually beat Demon Gaming 8-7 on Villa in the APAC playoffs. So ago, like 2.5 months.
That's crazy.
So that's a pretty solid win. I mean, everybody knows what Damwon Gaming Kia is like. They went to the Sweden Major and they absolutely popped off. So an 8-7 win on that map is quite good. So it makes me think that, you know, Direwolves probably have some legs in the map. You know, they're pretty used to maybe playing the map to its full entirety, and, you know, a 2-0 lead or deficit, I should say, isn't something too dramatic to have to try and come back from at this stage.
No, and that's just it. Again, just keeping it as close as they can for as long as they can and giving themselves... Again, for me, it's all about giving themselves room to do it on defense. It's all about how many rounds... What is the buffer like for them? Because we've already seen what it's like. Oregon was... I mean, I'm still baffled that they went 7-0 against Invictus on that. That was absolutely absurd. And it's not a bad map for Invictus. That is what is an even crazier turn of events for me, is the fact that Invictus are good on Oregon and Direwolves still manhandled them like that. So, yeah, look, Villa for me, give yourself a bit of a buffer, give yourself a couple of rounds on your defense to play with it, and really hope that maybe you can throw that Hail Mary, I want to say, because it might well end up being like that if Invictus can really take this game grab it by the scruff of the neck. There will be issues that I have absolutely no doubt that they will see. One thing I'm really intrigued by is the fact that we may well see the first cafe of the tournament, which I don't know about you, but I mean, I'd have to go back and have a look at the stats from APAC South and APAC North, I guess, but honestly, cafe was like one of the most played maps for me last year, and it got to a point where I was starting to go a little crazy with it. So it's nice to see it at least once.
Yeah, look, actually, I do have the APAC South Stage 3 stats, because there's 2 South teams. Cafe was the most played map, which... I mean, doesn't surprise me. I actually thought it might have been Oregon, but it is Cafe. It had seven plays just in regular season. I don't have playoffs in front of me. But yeah, look, Invictus actually have quite a strong record on Cafe. So I think the decider could be quite interesting. That's why I feel like I'd lean towards Invictus. But I tell you what, you already referenced it. It's exactly what I said yesterday. I looked at the map vetoes, I looked at the results in previous history, saw Invictus had a very strong Oregon history. So I was like, yeah, okay, it's going to be Invictus 2-1. And then they got absolutely smacked. So I don't know. I don't think I can have the same faith going into Decider today if we get there.
And you know what? Regardless of which team wins, it's actually going to be a lot of fun, because we are going to get to have an interview by the looks of it. So we'll either be speaking to, I believe it's ED or potentially Luna on IG. It'd be really interesting to talk about that match yesterday from either team's perspective. Like, for Direwolves, how on earth did that happen? Did you ever think that was a possibility? And for Invictus, you're joking me, aren't you?
That's okay. We love it here. But to your point, yeah, I would love to get some insight just into that general series yesterday, because it was quite the series. It was full of lots of different things. Like I said, we had that 8-7 on Banks, super close, and then that 7-0 on Oregon, very polarizing. But yeah, it would be great to get some insight. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get to see round 3.
Oh, it's testing me. That's all right. We had fun here. We certainly do. And we can just continue to have a bit of a chin wag, I guess, throw some hypotheticals out. You know what? It's podcast time. We're turning this into just a fully fledged podcast, Raven, because looking at what has been a very interesting start to the tournament, the fact that Direwolves almost beat Cyclops last night. Now, I believe that you went on break after your first 2 matches that you cast, so that honestly was so much closer than it should ever have been. Direwolves had the opportunity to close it out on Clubhouse, which was going to be map 2. They also were it was a 7-4 victory to CAG on Villa, which was the 3rd deciding map. However, as Xenox has already mentioned in that pre-show, there was a 1v2 and a 1v3 back-to-back clutches for CAG that could have completely turned the tide. It would have ended up being a 6-6 OT just based on the stats alone.
Crazy.
So yeah, there are just so many points here where you look and you're like, Direwolves could literally be through to the grand final. And this is where I would probably beg the question to you. I know it's been so long since you coached, but when we get into these kind of moments, it is like...
Dive in.
Yeah, we may as well just dive into the nitty-gritty and just have a bit of fun with it. But like, the element that Direwolves are playing with of zero pressure, zero care, is very similar to what we've seen the Chiefs ride on for the better part of the end of 2021. Is there something to this? Like, do you seek, are you seeing what they're talking about in the fact that they're just chilling, they're just playing Siege, and it's panning out?
There's definitely something to be said about when you're able to take that pressure off yourself and not feel, what the match means. I know that sounds funny because, like, when you're competing, you want to win. So, like, it's about tapping into the desire to win and perform, but without the negative aspects or the downsides to that. And that's usually what pressure will do to you. It makes you play a bit skitty because you're feeling the pressure or whatever. And, there's been a pretty big history of teams that have been able to get some really good results while playing with a lot of fun. One that actually sticks out in my mind, it was old Pro League finals. It was when Liquid won. I cannot remember the season because it actually was ages ago. But I distinctly remember it stuck out to me that they were just laughing a lot on stage. Even when they were losing rounds, they were having so much fun. And I remember it was pointed out by the casters at the time. And there was some massive merit to that. And I remember, I think there was an interview with Shaz from G2 at one point where he was talking about that was something they wanted to start to tap into, kind of playing with that fun vibe and really honing in on how that helps you. There's definitely a lot of merit to it because, look, to be honest, if you're really stiff and tense, your muscle memory is not going to be the same, your thought process won't be the same. When you're playing with negative emotions or elevated heart rate, less oxygen in your brain, so your decision-making process in general is a bit affected. So yeah, there's definitely a lot to be said about the fun vibes.
Yeah.
But it will only kind of get you so far, right? It's not
100%.
It's not the key to victory.
No. Direwolves are not going to end up going to SI and winning, just having fun. that's not going to happen. Or could they? That is the big question. I mean, you look at the spirit that Direwolves have really brought to Rainbow Six in APAC, and I think that it's indicative. I think that you're seeing a whole new level of playstyle from APAC, and whether it's because of a shift in the meta, whether it's because Siege has now been around for the better part of 5 years. I think it's been out, 4 years competitive for most of these teams. I think that we are starting to see a lot of things settle down where, 2 years ago it was a lot more structured, and yes, you could argue it may have been the meta, but I would also argue that teams like Direwolves, even teams like Cyclops, have, in APAC specifically, I'm not going to talk in wider regions, but these kind of teams have kind of opened this playstyle up of just have a bit of fun with it. Show your mechanical sense, because honestly, I think that when you look back to the Sweden major, the Mexico major, there were some results and some performances that really surprised a lot of people internationally, the casters included. And that's just I think that's a testament as to where we are right now. And a testament as to how far APAC has come as a whole. I think that, year on year they've continued to improve, and whether that is because the mentality of it has changed for some of these teams. It could well be. I'm not going to say that. I'm not just going to come out and say it's a blanket statement. It has. But for a team like Direwolves, they came into Stage 1 this year, similar to how Dan 1 came into Stage 1 of this year. Not many people had a hell of a lot of expectations on either of those teams. And look at what they've been able to achieve. I don't know. I think that there's a fresh wave of, like players that have been playing for a long time, maybe not at the top level of the competitive scene, that are starting to step up and show that there is a different way to it. And I mean, hell, Dan 1, they're on another level, man. I mean, would you? Here you go. Here's a question for you. Would you classify them as the best team in APAC right now?
I mean, I think I would. Yeah, I think I would. It's hard to argue that they're not, because I mean they went to Sweden Major, they did a really good job.
Yeah.
I can't remember their final placement, but I'm pretty confident it was top 8. Top 8 something. Feels like so long ago, honestly.
I know,
but like I think it's hard to argue that they're not. But teams constantly evolve. Like one season, I think Cyclops is a great example. Stage 1 and 2, they certainly felt like they were one of the best teams in APAC, and then Stage 3 they really fell off, didn't make the major. And look at them, they're getting through this bracket, but they look like they're struggling, like they're really being challenged. This isn't a breeze for them. So yeah, I think at the moment Den 1's probably the best team in APAC.
Yeah.
And to kind of tap into your point, I really feel like the meta change was just good timing for a team like them. I think it molded perfectly to the way that they want to play, and they also just really honed in on the fact that suited the way that they wanted to play, so they've just gotten a lot better at Dev and I kind of spoke about this yesterday a little bit too. It's the same with Latin America. The way that those teams play, it's just so favoured by the way that the meta changed. EU and NA teams, fairly good with structure, and I think EU in particular was always good at being very procedural, and that was why the whole utility clear meta was really good for those regions. Whereas I think what we're experiencing at the moment has just kind of been more favourable to LATAM and to an extent APAC. I mean, APAC still isn't winning majors, but certainly performing a lot better than they did in previous years.
Well, Dev made the comment that 30%, or sorry, not 30%, that Korea has the 3rd highest representation out of any country going to SI right now, which is absolutely insane to think about. That is at a point where APAC has really got a huge representation, and not just a huge representation, but a representation that can compete quite to a higher extent than what we have been able to see in the past. You think to your Fanatics and your Norarengos, and really there was just the 2 teams for, oh god, the better part of 2 years, I think, that were really competing. And now you're seeing just a whole bunch of different teams. I would have loved to have seen what the Knights would have been able to do at the Mexico Major.
Tell me about it.
Man, that was devastating. I mean, not only was that a big blow for APAC, but specifically for the OST region, that was really that really hurt. Being able to perform to such an incredible level in Stage 2 for the Knights, to then miss out on that opportunity. And very clearly, it ended up being a bit of a detriment to them. They came last, or second last in the 3rd stage, similar to a Cyclops rate.
Yeah, no, it wasn't great, but at least we did get to see Chiefs at the Sweden Major.
Yeah.
And they did fairly well. I mean, they didn't make it out of groups, but they did a great job, had a couple of really big contests there. And that's kind of how it always is with those teams when they freshly go over for an international event. That was Chiefs' first time.
Yeah.
You kind of need that first one under your belt to really know what to expect, how to better prep for it, and that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm really excited for what this year could hold for some of the things at global events.
Yep. Well, thank you for joining the Raven and Matt podcast. A bit of a waffle, if you will, but we are going to go to a break. Unfortunately, there are some technical issues that we need to sort through. So we'll be back after this with what is Villa with Invictus and Direwolves.
I feel on top of the world, I feel on top of the world right now. I feel on top of the world, I feel on top of the world right now. I always wanted the world, I wanna conquer the world right now. I feel on top of the world, I feel on top of the world right now. I call the shots in the man with the plot and we only go bombs away. Ain't no one protecting my mind as a weapon, that's why I'm a dominate. Taking advantage of every second, now I ain't got time to waste. They all tryna sign my name, they want me to sign my name. Counting your blessing while I count that in my winnings. We take 50s and 100s and throw them up to the ceiling. Everything I envision, now everybody gon' witness. Only difference between us is I ain't stop till I finish. Yeah. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I always wanted the world. I want to conquer the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. Savage, you've been distracted. Your best, my average. There's a reason for that's a fact. So they snapping back, mad at the fact that I don't have a backup plan. I ain't need that. Outworking everybody when I relax. So I ain't tripping about none of y'all feedback. Heard that, wonder when I'm gonna peak at. And that's why you count your blessing while I count that in my winnings. We take 50s and 100s and throw them up to the ceiling. Everything I envision, now everybody gon' witness. Only difference between us is I ain't stop till I finish. Yeah. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I always wanted the world. I want to conquer the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. I always wanted the world. I want to conquer the world right now. I feel on top of the world. I feel on top of the world right now. Shots in the man with the plot and we only go bombs away. Ain't no one protecting my mind as a weapon, that's why I'm a dominate. Taking advantage of every second, now I ain't got time to waste. They all tryna sign my name, they want me to sign my name. Counting the blessing while I count that in my winnings. We take 50s and 100s and throw them up to the ceiling. Everything I envision, now everybody gon' witness. Only difference between us is I ain't stop till I finish. Yeah. I feel on top of the world, I feel on top of the world right now. I feel on top of the world, I feel on top of the world right now. I always wanted the world, I want to conquer the world right now. I feel on top of the world, I feel on top of the world right now.
Thank you very much for your patience. It's we've been just kind of chipping away in the background, just waiting for this game to unfold. We had a lot of thoughts, a lot of theories there, Raven, as we podcasted through the first rehost, but the second one I think we went on a bit of a tangent just about the white Rainbow Six scene. Let's hope there's not another rehost in the next couple of rounds, because all our material is gone. However, we have the Invictus and Direwolves game restarting right now. First two rounds, for those that are just joining us, were Invictus through and through. There was no shadow of a doubt. Sterix popped off with a 3K, Joe popped off with a 4K in the first round, so very much so, it has started out with a good trend for IG. Direwolves looking to bounce back.
Yeah, and I'm really keen to see what the potentially done for the Direwolves, because I was talking about yesterday where on map 1 of this series, which was the second series for the day, just jumped out to a 3-1 lead, and it felt like they were just going to kind of run away with the whole series. Dev and I definitely were of the mindset 2-0 was probably imminent, and it feels very reminiscent of that today. But now Direwolves have been able to have a bit of a break, so to speak, and have a chat and kind of just figure out what's going wrong and how they potentially might want to change things up. Yep. So yeah, I'm really curious to see here in round 3 whether it's actually going to have helped them figure out some kind of adaptation.
Well, approaching into the third round, so far, so good. There's not a Direwolves player in the building, which by this time we'd seen at least 2. And oh no! No, not like that, man. I'm sorry for all headphone users at home. Oh, that's so frustrating. That is so frustrating, man. Jackie Wu goes down with nothing to show for it.
Yeah, it's not a great start to whatever potential adaptation was going to happen. And on top of that, losing the sledge, actually very key in this attack specifically, because you want to get some decent verticals above kitchen and dining. You can see that's what Direwolves are trying to do here. Shadow really trying to put the pressure in towards Master, Bathroom, Astro. And with that, they want to be able to get above. They want to be able to get that vertical position to put pressure onto the on-site players. Now, all is not lost. I actually have 6 breach charges between Pika and Souffle. So they can use those to kind of get the same effect. But obviously, it's a lot easier with your sledge.
Yeah. that's a big tilter. And again, as I mentioned, Vert quite important here. So they're going to need to start to really make inroads on that site. They do have good recovery lines for Souffle. That's only toward Master. There is Astro that could be utilised right now, and there is a player, I believe, up in Astro. well. So there you go. He's not in Astro. He's actually over across towards Stat. It doesn't look like Direwolves are going to start to push him just yet. Luna's there for the support. This is a dangerous, like, kind of point in the round where things could really just snowball out of control for Direwolves.
Definitely could. And they've only got a minute left to really continue this. Joe still putting that pressure on vertically. Speakeasy holding this nice line through to Laundry. IG just look very comfortable with their on-site positions. And Shadow's just peeking right into the line of sight. IG just steamroll Direwolves. 2 versus 5 right here. 1 versus 5. All up to Pika.
I don't think there's really much left in it for this round. He's pretty nutty and he's done some unbelievable things in the past. He's now been given somewhat of an opportunity, but he's got 3 players to find with 30 seconds left.
It's going to be very tough for him, but he's just going to try and waste no time at all, kind of entering in through Memorials, finding another engagement in towards Laundry. Time really eroding, no diffuser, and no chance. Jordan closes that one out for Invictus, and they've jumped out to that 3-0 lead.
Well, that's not what you wanted to see. Said right as that minute mark kind of ticked over for Direwolves, it was either going to steamroll out of control or there might have been an opportunity to stick the foot in the door. However, with Invictus's hold up above, with both Joe and Luna, with Jordan watching the vertical lines as well, there's essentially 3 crosshairs on 2 players in Master. It just never ends well for them there. And slowly but surely, Invictus are just jumping ahead in this game. Now, it's only 3 rounds, and it's only the first half. It is defense for them, but I would really like to see Direwolves just keep pace with them. They don't necessarily have to come back all 3 rounds, but I would say, Raven, that 2 rounds is the bare minimum pass mark.
Yeah, definitely. They definitely need to get 2 rounds in this half, otherwise I think it's going to be very tough on the comeback. Overall, though, I just think IG are looking cleaner today. Like, these 3 rounds have been very clean for them. They've been really hitting their shots. Their strats are solid, and you're not seeing them overextend, but they are face-checking some of the early progress that we're starting to see from Direwolves, which means that they're not facing situations where they're either caught off or trying to kind of fight for advantage from behind, which is what happened a little bit yesterday in that series. So I think overall this has just been a much better start to the series than what we saw from Invictus Gaming yesterday.
And that's what we had to see. Absolutely had to see from a team that we think is probably one of, if not the best team here at this tournament. Really needed to see them kind of dust themselves off after yesterday's performance, make that lower bracket run, which it looks like they are being able to achieve. Now, I'm going to keep an eye on Jordan's frost mats. I don't know where the 3rd one went. However, I know there's one behind the vault door in the default plant spot, and there's also one on that tier 1 kind of top main stairs platform. So I'm calling it now. Direwolves, with the way they play, I think they're going to run into these, and it's really going to cause some devastation.
Look, it definitely could. Certainly one of those operators between Capcan and Frost, you know, it really doesn't favour the aggressive, rushy team that maybe isn't quite grabbing all the intel. And, oh, this is an aggressive peek here from Jordan. He's about to counter off guard. It's ED. Kit down. Hard breach lost. That is not a great start to the round for Direwolves.
How does your own medicine taste there, Direwolves? It would be quite salty, I would imagine, because we've seen that yesterday. Through and through, Oregon is where Direwolves picked apart Invictus. It was in a very similar playstyle. Jackie Wu now with the attention of Jordan has to be careful. There's 2 frost mats that are actually on that first tier of the main stairs. I'm telling you now, someone's going to walk into that because they're just going to be trying to rush up. Jackie Wu finds Luna. Shadow manages to bounce back as well. Direwolves have brought this back all of a sudden.
Yeah, some nice vertical shots it looks like. Pika as well. He's been able to poke from behind. Joe finally fights back for Invictus to kind of keep it in check a little bit. But this has been a much better round now from Direwolves, which is quite surprising because, again, it started very strong for IG. This has all happened within the last 30 seconds, really. And they still have control of positions like 90. That's really good, even though it's a 2v3. Oh, okay. That's not so good, though, then, Matic.
That's devastating. That really sucks. I mean, it looked like Invictus were in a good position. Now, this is where we saw Direwolves fall apart against CAG. Will it happen again? A 1v2, 1v3. they lost. Jordan sharp enough to be able to do it. He's already got 3 kills just from the second round alone, but I love that from Souffle. Sneak up, get aggressive, hold the line and ensure that a repeat is not a possibility. And right there is exactly the round that Direwolves are looking for.
Yeah, much better from there. And look, again, a bit reminiscent of the series we had yesterday. It was 1-3 on Bank. That was map 1 of the BO3 the teams played against each other. Direwolves did go on to win that one OT. But yeah, I don't know. Kind of giving me vibes of yesterday at the moment. Maybe Direwolves can start to fight back here. If they manage to get this 3-3 half, I would say, honestly, all is not lost.
That's it. Just keep pace. Keep pace. Keep in the game. Don't allow Invictus that 4-2. Don't allow them the 5-1. But specifically this next round, I think, is going to be quite important for Direwolves. There is still that potential to even things out at 3 apiece as we head into the second half, which I think would be so devastating for Invictus, but it's more than possible. Now we need to see whether this adaptation that Direwolves have made there, a little bit less aggressive, a little bit more methodical, might start to play in. If Invictus don't change up what they're doing, could be caught out.
Certainly could be, and I like that they haven't gone for the repeat of AVG. I think I talked about this past, but I think it's just, especially on maps like Villa, most of the maps in the map pool tend to be like this these days, where most of the sites are viable. Living Library, you can make an argue, probably isn't. But, you know, when you've got other sites that have worked out for you, of course, Invictus to go up 3-0, just rotate through. Don't go back to it, and it doesn't really get stale at that point. So I'm curious, though. Direwolves, they're going to be able to get a second attempt now at Stat Trophy. What adaptations can they find this time around? Because, yeah, that adaptation on AVG works really well.
All about that. All about that life. Shadow, I want all that smoke. Taking their time as well. Finding a fair bit of intel. I mean, there's no one to capitalize there, which is a little bit of a shame, but that could possibly have been an opening pick if they'd pushed and proed it a little bit more. Thing you got to remember for Invictus on this site in particular, across towards Stat and Trophy, is the fact that they do extend quite heavily to the top of main stairs, or brown stairs, if you will. Oh, Souffle. Oh, this is absolutely massive! But Speakeasy heard the vault. And that is such a fortunate moment for Invictus to be able to run away with.
Really is, and again, it's another instance here where Direwolves are getting away with far less than they got away with yesterday. And I feel like really helping Invictus to stay within their game, within their rhythm. They're able to play their style, and you might say they're dictating the pace of this match, which I just think is so important for Invictus to stay on top of the game, because what happened yesterday was Direwolves, they were the ones really dictating that pace. That's ultimately what got them the third map win in that series. So yeah, this is looking pretty good, but again, Direwolves, they're going to try to adapt here. I feel like they're kind of just trying a lot of the same. It's not really working out, so it's time to try and figure something out differently. And this position from Luna,
Huge.
This could be massive.
What I really like as well is it's exactly the way you want to play that extension from Invictus. Find the first pick and you don't stick around. Even though it wasn't a pick on that side of the map, they found it somewhere and they've instantly reverted. All 5 players now are on that northern side of the site, which means that Direwolves have to try and fight through the choke points. Luna's got control of Master. We've also got control of Closet and Bathroom. I think Invictus have just set themselves up to knock these dominoes over one by one.
Certainly making it very hard for Direwolves. That's going to make it harder. Really great angle there from Speakeasy. And oh, they are just falling like flies now.
This is unreal. This is the Invictus that we know and love. A flawless round played to perfection. And that really makes you start to wonder, is this going to be 2? Direwolves, they have to fight back. A 5-1 first half is not enough here against Invictus.
Definitely won't be, and it's, even the 2-4 is a little bit scary, but look, stranger things have happened. Direwolves certainly a team, no stranger to comebacks. Oh my gosh, what am I saying? But I think just the way the form is progressing at this stage, I don't know, definitely expected more from Direwolves at this stage, and I would say this is kind of what I was expecting from Invictus yesterday. They kind of just strolled a little bit yesterday, didn't quite perform to their best, but so far we're seeing a far better IG, and I think, if anything, they breeze through this Series 2-0. That's going to be a scary sight for Cyclops, because they were also kind of struggling a little bit yesterday too.
Yep. Yeah. And that's... Yeah, I'm not going to say by any means that Cyclops and Direwolves have a similar playstyle, because I don't think that they do, but I think that in terms of the kind of direction that their playstyle heads in, it is similar to Direwolves in that aggression kind of mentality. They're always happy to find that opening pick, always happy to try and find an early fight, and if Invictus are really showing right now, which they have done, that they're more than happy to extend. They're more than happy to get in the face of Direwolves. I have no doubt the CAG is sitting back right now watching this thinking, we've got to be careful. We have to be careful. This is an Invictus that have done their homework, or at the very least, they've gone back after their games last night and they've thought, okay, what went wrong for us? And they are fixing it bit by bit. We're also going to see that cap cam on Hysterics, which, I mean, I'm a huge fan when you're coming up against Direwolves. Mate, use your traps. Use them to your fullest.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you know, it's the last round of the half. Direwolves back against the wall, really, in this map so far. Why not? They might double down on their aggression. I really would not be surprised. I think it's actually a play from IG to... For that, also sticking this with Bruni again, we talked about it before. I think it's a really great counter for Direwolves' play style and what they've presented this weekend. Oh. And Jordan's been able to open the card, taking out Jackie Wood. Oh, that was a sharp shot from Hysterics. And IG, they are just looking sharp all over.
I mean, this is textbook how to adapt to a team like Direwolves. If you ever want to know what you've got to do to try and make something work against a team that is just bringing unrelenting aggression, this is the perfect way. Not only are Invictus looking for those spawn peaks and looking for those fights, you also have the Banshees of Malusi to slow things down. You've got, as you've already mentioned, the Sawyer Gates to stop the pushes, to stop the rushes, like you're going to see right here. They've got to make the noise. They've got to, like, the alarm bells ring for Invictus instantly. And Direwolves are really just in so much trouble.
Yeah, they seem fairly indecisive exactly how they want to approach as well. Did look like they wanted to just explode through pantry to kitchen and just try make a play. But bailed away from that. You have to be careful making sound past this hatch, because there is a player just on the other side of that. And this is just falling apart. Hysterics is just everywhere at the moment. Having another great map here for IG. And Souffle and Pika, they have a lot of pressure on them right now to try and salvage something from this half.
I can see it. I can see 2 flawless rounds back to close things out here for Invictus. Direwolves have not been given a single inch. This is textbook from Invictus. Souffle will find at least one. Oh, okay. I'm not totally not believing this storyline now. A 1 versus 5. Could it happen?
I mean, it could. He doesn't have Diffuser right now, so he's going to have to try and go for the picks, I think. I'm not sure he's going to really be in a good position to try and get the Diffuser. This could be big, though. That's the vertical play. Triple kill on the board. 20 seconds to go. I tell you what, this could get close.
I'm starting to believe. He'll have his entrance somewhat diminished by that Sawyer Gate. Souffle makes his way around the corner. The time is just ticking far too low. And boy, oh boy, are Invictus playing this one. Nice! Oh, Souffle. Wow, what an effort.
I tell you what, he did a great job to bring that back to be where it was. But look, IG, very solid half from them overall. It was a solid round until it wasn't. But at the end of the day, they got it. Look at the scoreline. It is 5-1 in favor of Invictus. They're 2 rounds away from taking map 1, which is Direwolves' map pick. Let's remind you, Direwolves chose to go here first, and it's really not working out too great.
I'm telling you right now, Invictus are playing the game. They've banned out Villa in both of their best of 3s yesterday. First against Direwolves, then against Talon. I'm telling you right now, Invictus have been waiting for this opportunity. They are absolutely knocking Villa out of the park right now. And next up is Chalet. I mean, this is really a sight to see if you're an Invictus fan. Direwolves.
Protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
have fought valiantly throughout this entire tournament. Their 2 best of 3s yesterday, honestly, were on point. They played 6 maps, and you've got to remember, it was 6 maps against the 2 teams that we consider the absolute frontrunners here, Cyclops and Invictus. They managed to push both of them to the limits. So there is no doubting whatsoever that Direwolves have started off 2022 with a bang. They've still got a chance here. I'm not taking that away from them, but it looks like that wind behind their sails has all but diminished. They have to kickstart this half with something incredible. They have to silence Invictus.
Yeah, I'd say if they get 2 really solid rounds here, I will feel the belief that Direwolves can bring this back. But the issue, I think, for me is, or the point for me is, Invictus just had such a strong first half. It was really commanding. They had so much momentum. It could have easily been 2 flawless rounds. I mean, sure, Souffle really did bring back that final round, but at the end of the day, Invictus really ran over the top of them in that half, and that's certainly concerning. It just doesn't feel like the form is there for Direwolves to, you know, put together such a comeback, but hey, it could happen. I tell you what, they get the next 2 rounds consecutively and they do it well, I'll jump onto that train.
Well, look, like we said, Raven, the defense is definitely going to, I would say the defense is going to favor them much more than what the attack is. The attack on Villa, if you're playing aggressive, it's a very hard play style to try and achieve. However, if you're able to do it on the defense, it can be devastating. We've already seen it. Invictus has already shown us what that kind of play style has in store for many of these teams. So, as we start to look into it, that's not what you want to see. That is the absolute opposite of the engagement that you want. Hysterics is really having quite a decent game, all things considered.
Yeah, he's actually having a fantastic weekend, honestly. I've been really impressed with the form that he's presented. And
oh, Souffle!
that was a nice little flick to Jordan.
God damn. I mean, I think it started a little bit for me for a second there, but oh my word. That was absolutely gnarly. Souffle now looking for the opportunity to re-aggress, has that kit in sight. But it's all about whether he decides to contest. I don't feel like that's something you really need to contest, but he has. I actually didn't see. He's on the smoke, so he can burn that time, he can waste it. It's just as efficient right now. But they have to make this work. They have to double down here, Diamonds.
Yeah, no, this is actually, that was a really important feat, actually, because they've taken off the Hibana. It's the dedicated hard breacher, so that's going to make just taking 90 more difficult because they're going to have to try and do something about Vault, which they can't really do without the Hibana, and I don't know, it's just got really stalled out Invictus because we're into this final minute. Sure, Joe's just found a pick onto Shadow. That's helpful. But time's starting to tick away. They've got to try and surmount around sight and make something happen. That's certainly going to help as well. Yeah. Hysterics once again standing up for Invictus.
Picking apart Direwolves, as we like to say, in like a nice hot roast pork on a Sunday afternoon. There's no chance left. They are really just getting shattered here. A 2 versus 4. Needs to be converted. They've got 2 smoke babes in the hand with 20 seconds left. You know what, Raven? I'm going to say it. Souffle's going to do it. If he hits this shot, it was on, but no. It's all a bait. It's all a lie. 10 seconds left. The C4's off in the wrong direction. Doesn't even hit anyone. And a 1 versus 4 has to ensue, but I'm sure will be shut down.
Definitely going to be tough for ED in this instance. IG shooting hot. Post-plant situation, so clock no longer in ED's favour. Poor lad hasn't hit a shot since the rehost either, apparently, and he's not going to hit another one. Invictus, they continue this dominance, Manic. They're up 6-1. They're on match point for map 1 in this series.
Yep. Just the way the cookie crumbles at this point. Invictus really, really showing that they are here to play. And this is what, honestly, it's what I absolutely wanted to see from this roster. Come out, completely forget about yesterday. You had a bit of a shaky one against Direwolves. A lot more convincing against Talon. There's no doubt about it. That was, I felt like Invictus were in front that entire game. And they could have even closed out Chalet, but only 1 attacking round is just not good enough when you're playing on a map that, I don't know, in APAC South, in OS, it certainly has lent into a huge attacking favoured side. Speakeasy on the Glaz?
I love it.
Okay.
I love it. I love me some Glaz, so I hope this goes absolutely bananas. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I think Invictus is really feeling it today. I don't know, feeling there's a lot more confidence, there's a lot more flexibility even in their operator selection. I was noticing yesterday that they are the kind of team that really settles into kind of a mainstay lineup composition, and then maybe here and there they'll change a couple around, but it seems to be a bit more free today. We've seen some variance, and I'm loving this right here. The Twitch, the Finker, the Glaz, it's actually a really beautiful lineup to see. Fairly aggressive in a way as well, backed up with that Yana and Habana. So look, I think it's a great sign. They're on 6-1 match point. Surely they can't lose match one from here, Medic.
Famous last words. I feel like we've said that a couple of times when it's come to Direwolves being down in the series. And like I said before, I was like, there's no chance. And the problem is with Direwolves, there's always a goddamn chance. This team just always continues to impress and, I don't know, catch us off guard. But I really think at this point Invictus have just done so much work. They have really ran Direwolves around themselves, honestly, just circles continuously going through and through. Now, the opportunity of a lifetime heading into what could be the grand final. Should they be able to convert their own map pick, they might set themselves up for a pretty successful and happy lower bracket run.
We can do that, and look, that would definitely be Cyclops on notice and warning, because IG, it seemed like they're coming for them, but of course still a lot of siege to go. First minute here, nice little setup around Master, so looking to just go the direct. Of course, there's a couple of different ways to attack this site, stat trophy. You might go for the full map sweep across from office side, and sometimes that can take a long time and can be real pain to deal with the roamers on that side. I like that IG have kept it simple. They're wanting to go direct, and again, I think the Glaz play plays into that quality. If they can get Speakeasy in fairly comfortably, maybe they use him around bricks or around the breach to contest through smokes, and that could be really lethal against Direwolves.
Attackers have recovered their diffuser.
Waiting for that opportunity to arise, but as we do so in the meantime, the half mark has just ticked over. Victors haven't been able to really achieve a hell of a lot, and look, I say a hell of a lot, but they are setting themselves up quite nicely. As you've already mentioned with that Glaz, with the smokes, they will be able to utilize that for their line all the way through toward the back of Trophy, cut off that rotate and split, as Hysterics is now putting attention on the other side of the map. This could be really interesting. I don't think Direwolves have anyone across that side of the map, so they're going to be able to suffocate quite quickly.
There we go, it's the smokes at the brick store here. Can Speakeasy do any damage on this Glaz? I think Direwolves are going to be in for quite the surprise, but he's taken down with some pre-fire, at least traded Manic. Very chaotic little 15 seconds here as they try to go through, and there it is. Big C4 from Souffle.
It's massive from Souffle to hold on for dear life. Hysterics has now come to the limelight. Jordan's going to hit these shots, a 2 versus 2 to save the game for Direwolves. Joe and Jordan side by side. What is the opportunity? What is the call? Jordan needs to be careful. Just on the other side of Astro is awaiting ED, and it could be a detrimental ED. And that is stepped up but taken down by Joe. And now in a 1 versus 1 with only 10 seconds left. The Sawyer gate in front of Joe. He's just going to tank it. He's got to. Where is this last player? It's Pika over in Trophy, holding on, waiting for the opportunity with a second left. There's got to be a peek eventually. Pika comes out with the shotgun and takes Joe to the graveyard. We're not done yet. I went to say Chalet on Villa.
Not quite Chalet yet. Direwolves certainly doing their best to make sure we don't see Chalet anytime soon. They've managed to hold on to that one. I felt like IG just unfortunately didn't quite get the depth that they wanted or the picks that they wanted in that kind of 45-second mark. Especially losing Speakeasy to the Proof-Fire through the smoke. That's unfortunate. Didn't really work out too well. Maybe we'll see the Glaz reappear. But at the end of the day, Direwolves have saved their skin. Can they continue this run and try and push this one to OT?
That's a big question for a 2v2 which turned into a 1v1. If it had been a convincing round, you'd say, there's some merit there. As of right now, we do have to see that attempt back over at AVG, which was oh so unsuccessful from Direwolves. They will be able to reattempt here. And Invictus running, I think, the Lion and the Faker as well. Again, I'm kind of indifferent about this lineup for Invictus. They're it worked out in the last round. I have no doubt it'll probably work out here as well. But really important that they get that early work done. Should it be, you know, Jordan on the Habana opening up the lines toward the back of Volt from outside of study or wherever they may try to flush out. I think the big thing for me with AVG is always the time. It's always how much time you have left. And generally, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself here and on my memory, which is never all that great. But I do feel like AVG of all sides always comes down to that last 20 seconds.
Yeah, I've definitely seen a lot of AVG rounds that do come to a bit of that final push, the little late plant, either behind Vault door maybe, or at the bar. It kind of depends on where the exact progression comes from. But what I really like from IG here is I do actually like that they've brought this line. I think it's going to be very helpful for them if they want map control, because we did see Direwolves dedicating a lot of utility over into that statue side. ED even using Mirror over there. They look like they really want to hard hold that. So if IG want map control, boy, they're going to have to fight for it. And it looks like it's being held by Direwolves. So that line is going to help. It's going to get players stationary. It's going to get them staying still. It's going to actually facilitate IG to orchestrate a pinch or some kind of flush out of these roamers.
Well, that's just it, isn't it? If IG have done their prep work, they have been able to drone out in that prep phase, they will 100% know that there could be an opportunity to cut off the rotate from two players of Direwolves. But now is when it really kickstarts. That's always a devastating line to hold from study. And with no one putting pressure on Jackie Roo right now, I would say go for your life. Peek as much as you can. See what Invictus might... Like, see if there's one little mistake. That's all it takes. It's one small weak link, and you've got yourself an opening. At the very least, it's a trade from Souffle.
Oh, good little trade, but Shadow just peeks straight up into Speakeasy. So that's going to give IG that man advantage. It's also going to give them the map control that they were looking for over on that north side. And they've done so in the first half of the round. Good for Souffle. Stand up in the window, at least trade one back. 3 versus 3. That's going to make it a little bit more cushy as we come into the second half of the round.
I don't even know what just happened. I feel like I blinked and I missed it. That was a wild shot swinging on the 90 window. Souffle has been unbelievable from Direwolves. Actually, one of the only players to really keep them in this. And on the smoke, not very often that you don't see that shotgun being brought. So really putting it to work and doing the damage that's been almost allowed. But a 3 versus 3, a minute left on the clock. Invictus have really chipped away at that defense, but they've got a lot more to go. Shadow's gone. No, not like this.
Not like this. 3 versus 3, yes, 50 seconds. They've got 90 controls. This is going to be very important for IG to continue to spread this out. I think that was from the drone hole that he got his feet tagged up. So, look, it's always going to be a little bit squishy here at 90. It's never comfortable, especially when you can't get that line of sight open. Of course, Jordan has been fragged out once again. It's just not an option for IG this time around.
And here we go. 20 seconds left, the mark in which they have to try and force this. You hear the C4 rip, but ED hasn't thrown it yet. They're looking, waiting for it. 10 seconds left on that clock. Speakeasy holding the line, waiting to see if that C4 comes over the top. There it is, unbelievably shot out. That would have been it. They would have been able to deny it from there, and now they've got to hope that the smoke can at least keep Luna in place. It's not going to do so. In fact, they're going to try and swing out. Luna goes massive with a double kill and makes it out of the smoke in time. I actually don't think the smoke kept him there. I think he stayed in the corner of Volt. That's unbelievable. ED with a 1v2 clutch on the cards here. He's had some pretty big moments in the game yesterday, but he's got to step up here. 20 seconds left, less than if you include the plant, the defuse. Luna manages to back away. That could have been an opportunity for ED, who continues to push. But Invictus close it out in one of the most convincing matches we have seen so far in this tournament. 7-2, Direwolves go down.
That's something going to feel good for Invictus. A bit of a hairy kind of final round for them, but at the end of the day, 7-2, that is a solid map 1 victory. Great round from Luna. Honestly, really good map in general from Luna. Man, absolutely fragged out. And in that last round in particular, very instrumental. He played the plant position beautifully. He didn't rush to it. They had only 15 seconds left. But you saw him. He didn't panic. He calmly waited to see if a study push came through. Could have caught them off guard. Didn't. Trusted Speakeasy to cover that C4 in particular. That was so clutch.
That was so big. I mean, like, you're watching it and you know exactly what's coming, right? You know that there's a C4. They heard the rip earlier on, so they knew that there was at least one more in the pocket. What I find really interesting is just how methodically they played that. There was also the smoke bays that they could have used to, at the very least, cause some confusion. So I am surprised with 10 seconds left that Direwolves aren't just throwing everything at the kitchen sink behind that vault default plant. Regardless, that is how it closes out. And honestly, what an unbelievable performance from Invictus, Raven. I think we can go ahead and say that that is probably the most convincing performance we've seen in this tournament.
Yeah, I think that definitely has been their best map this tournament. I mean, they looked fairly good on Chalet in this series yesterday against Direwolves. It was 7-4 in the end, but I remember it feeling similarly dominant in that first half. But no, I think this definitely was their best one so far. They maintained so much momentum, and I think most importantly, they did a really good job adapting to the playstyle of Direwolves. This was Direwolves' map pick. They clearly came in with a fairly aggressive game plan once again, and it just never felt like it was catching IG off guard. They were always ready to double down and kind of throw it back. Wolves.
I mean, really impressive. Really, really impressive stuff from Invictus. And again, I mean, I just love to talk about the kind of the mind games that are being played. For those of you that weren't here in the pre-show or that maybe haven't been checking out the stats, Invictus have banned Villa in both their matches yesterday, one against the Direwolves and the second against Talon. So coming into this, Direwolves, who are pretty decent on Villa, they're not awful by any means. It actually might be statistically their best map. Yeah, I think it is about a 60% win rate. Actually, it's 75% win rate. There you go. So it's well and truly their best map that they have. They would have been kind of licking their lips thinking, what have you just done, Invictus? You've just given us the opportunity of a lifetime to go 1-0 up in the series, and Invictus well and truly ready for that call. Now we head to Chalet, Raven, and this is now where I look back to Invictus and go, you haven't, for me, I mean, yeah, they might have had a good performance against Direwolves, but they didn't against Talon. It's been a bit rocky for them on Chalet.
Yep.
Is this door open? I don't know.
I think that's just going to be down to how Direwolves play, because I felt like Invictus played fairly well in Chalet in this series yesterday, but I think most importantly, Direwolves played fairly poorly. Like, they really couldn't get their talent. They were missing some big opportunities. I remember in particular there was a play from Souffle. Luna Metal walked right past him completely undroned, and he was the Monty, and he whiffed the shots in the back, and he got absolutely mowed down by IG. It's like, it was just, I don't know, there was a lot of stuff like that. You'd have to watch it to know what I mean, but there was a lot of big mistakes from Direwolves and Chalet yesterday, so I think they're going to have to pick it up, because Villa was full of some pretty big mistakes and just not great plays from Direwolves. Chalet was like that yesterday for them. If they can't turn that around, well, then I think we're looking at a 2-0 for IG.
It could be on the cards. IG take the map pick of Direwolves. We head to Chalet on the other side of this small break.
Myself in the mirror not so long ago, and I told me, do you know? I told me, do you know? All alone in your head, but you don't have to pretend that you will make a change, 'cause you don't wanna change. I'm gonna be real honest this time. I'm okay with it, I am more than fine. I'm gonna roll all less red dice now. Tell me I won't get out. forgetting who I was, or have to look back that far. And I don't want to forget who, get who. And are you just fucking around in my mind one last time? I'm gonna be real honest this time. I'm okay with it, I am more than fine. I'm gonna roll all less red dice now. Tell me I won't get out. Tell me I won't get out. Tell me I Trap me inside your walls now. Tell me I won't get out. Tell me I won't get out. Crush me with all that you are now. Tell me I won't get out. So tell me I won't get out.
You call my bluff for the last time. This ain't a song, it's a battle cry. No life. I see the clue between the strobe lights. I'm haunted, black face. Hey, follow me around, okay? Black face. Hey, follow me around, okay? Used to want it bad, but I can't taste it. I can't help you now, okay? Follow me around, okay? Black face. Hey, follow me around, okay? Follow me around, okay? Black face. Hey, follow me around, okay? Got too much up on my plate, now I can't think. I said woke up to get X and now I'm feeling this is it. Want the money, want the rest. I do purse, not no cess. They say Donish, why you sad? I said I just need the thing. Red tape, got too close, I hate the city. Black face, show you everything you need till you fornicate it bad. Someone said it's sad. I used to want it bad. I know it's in my head, keep seeing you too many times. Yeah. I know it's in my head, keep seeing you. I know it's in my head.
Oh, welcome back. It's time for map 2. We head to Chalet for it as well. Raven, before we move on, of course, any final comments on Villa?
Look, I think IG is certainly looking like the best team so far in the series. They look better than yesterday, so I'm feeling like this is going to be the 2-0 that we expected yesterday, and I'm a bit worried for Dials Chalet.
Yeah, the way that they've kind of come out swinging really does go to show that Invictus are here to play. And that's, I think, the big thing right now is if Invictus are here to play, you are going to be in trouble. Look at that, Raven. We had no time at all.
Straight in, mate.
How
Straight
good
in.
is that? No time on the desk. We're not mucking about. We're ready and underway already with the ban phase. I'm looking to Direwolves, and I'm looking at A, do they ban Monty? And B, do they ban the Clash again? Because apparently it had absolutely no impact on Invictus.
Oh man, the Clash play from Luna yesterday, on Chalet in particular, got to be scarring. I'd be very surprised Direwolves don't ban it out, because they really struggled to deal with it. They eventually did. In particular, I remember there was one instance, Luna was playing around piano, I think it was for a Master Office defense. And look, they ended up doing a good job pinching it, but it took a lot. Like, Luna easily won it probably like 3 rounds for Invictus off the back of his Clash plays. So I wouldn't be too surprised if they stick pretty similar bans like the Monty Clash, because it's just, yeah, there it is. It's just something that they're really struggling to deal with, and I think it comes down to their playstyle too, right? Like they want to play fun and free, and that can be really frustrating when you got a big shield boy in your face.
Well, I guess it kind of nullifies some of that aggression, some of those extensions on your defense. It really kind of hinders it because, well, if Monty just pushes up the staircase and forces you back with players behind him, what are you going to do? You're going to try and contest a shield? Like, good luck with that. Oh, interesting.
Spicy.
Okay. A smoke ban. I don't think I've seen a smoke ban in a hot minute.
Very few and far between the smoke bans, but yeah, look, sometimes you see it. Look, IG, every team plays a lot of smoke, right? Like, you can't really say one team in particular is. I mean, sometimes you have a better smoke player, and IG certainly have their fair share of good smoke players. I think in particular it's Jordan and or Joe that will kind of rotate between that smoke role. And yeah, look, a good smoke player can be frustrating to play against. Interesting though that they've left the clash in. I'm actually quite surprised, but. Look, this could really change the way the map plays out, and Direwolves do need to shake it up a bit.
They do. They've got to try and throw something at the wall. Now, stark contrast from the bans from Direwolves yesterday. We had a Nomad ban from them and a Jaeger ban on this map versus Invictus. However, Invictus are unwavered in their bans, following up with the Flores again and also the Valk. So they have a very clear indication of what they are trying to achieve and what they do not want to come up against. We've got, of course, Invictus on the defensive side, and already the clash is going to be shown. The invisible shield is out to play. Direwolves, what have they got for us? Do they have something in store that might shut this down?
Yes. I am very curious to see how they're going to handle this because, yeah, yesterday it was really one of their weak points on their attacks. And we all know Chalet, it's important to be on point with your attacks. And, like, it really does lean a lot into the attacker side. So if you clean on that, it's a half that you can kind of lock in that you should have the advantage through. And that would be great for Direwolves. You know, if they come out with a 4-2 half, it's a good spot. You know, that's kind of the expectation, I'd say, for Chalet.
Yep.
But yeah, they were really subpar with their attacks yesterday, and it was really contingent on Luna being a really good clash, among other things. But this side in particular was just such a struggle for Direwolves.
10 seconds left.
Struggle City. Struggle City. But we'll see whether it is the case or not. One thing that is pretty devastating, I would say, for Direwolves is the fact that they've had to come out and go back-to-back first attacking halves. I think had they been able to go on the defensive Villa and the defense for Chalet, maybe they would have been able to kickstart their campaign in these maps a little bit more so. But definitely right now, Direwolves have to kickstart here. They cannot allow Invictus to come out of the gate swinging. Really need, especially in the first couple of encounters, to just assert that dominance.
I think it definitely helps, and that was just something about the performance from Direwolves yesterday is I think they just really threw IG a little bit off their game. I want to say mentally, but like that's a massive assumption from my part. I don't know for a fact. We didn't have an interview, so I'm really not that sure.
Yeah.
But that's what it looks like. You know, it really made IG seem a lot more static, and they started to have difficulties to adapt when Direwolves were dictating that pace, getting up in their face, being aggressive, and winning those gunfights. They didn't get a chance to do that in Villa. So yeah, look, maybe they're going to be able to do it here. First minute in though. About to see this first engagement, and who's going to win out on it? It is Pika. That's a big pick on the Hysterics, and they just flood here, Manic. Oh my lord.
Whoa, what is going on? I mean, what is going on? Direwolves have absolutely swarmed all over Invictus, who are yet to have a response. Where are the flank drones? This is the big question right now. Jordan could well sneak up behind the entirety of Direwolves just at the last second. Jackie Wu pulls away from Library Stairs, and now Jordan is left scrambling with only 5 seconds left to defuse. He's going to be a fair amount of trouble, and there we go. It's not even going to make a difference. The plant just goes down, and Shadow shuts him down. What a first round from Direwolves.
Yeah, fantastic. Didn't quite see where the apex of the push. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Didn't quite see where that really came from, but man, it was explosive. Once they hit that go button, they just went and they monstered site. They won their picks. It was actually fantastic, and it was right off saying that it would be really good for them to kind of start on that point because that's what worked well for them. And look, they didn't have to worry about the clash. It didn't seem like that really had a factor at all. Great stuff for them to start on such a strong note.
do feel as though like Clash has either a really like a high standard of impact when either faced at the very start of the round where they can slow things down and stop that progression into either library or bar, or into the later stages of the round when things start to really cut close with time. But right then, Direwolves, oh my god, I mean, I am all about that smoke. That was unreal to see that. And it was pretty much on script for what we were saying. They had to come out swinging. They had to come out and pretty much show Invictus that there are no freebies here. Whether they're going to be able to repeat that same success, I'll be very interested to see. Regardless, though, Invictus, they will have more than enough opportunities to kind of reset and get back into this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Only the first round, right? And we see oftentimes Invictus could go 7-1, right? Like sometimes you see a really strong round, the team will adapt well, and that's it. It's just GG. Saying that's going to be the case, but I would hope that Invictus don't let this continue, because this is kind of what happened with Oregon. You know, they got absolutely blocked in the first round of Oregon yesterday, and that was it. They lost the whole map 7-0. So you don't want to let Direwolves get that kind of momentum and feel really confident in this kind of play style.
Yeah. Certainly not a happy point for Invictus fans if that starts to happen. However, I'm sure the Direwolves army, what are we going to start calling them? The Direwolves pack? Is that what they call their fans?
I think it is. I think it's the Wolf pack.
Yeah, because I'm almost certain that the Wolf pack is probably one of the most active and probably one of the most vocal fan base that we have in APAC. They're very loud when games are being played with Direwolves involved. So I have no doubt that they'll be sitting there cheering for that first round, but we'll start to focus in a little bit more for this second round. Pika on the OSA. Very, very interesting playstyle, I must admit. I wonder if the devs thought that this is how it was going to be played. You know what I mean? Like,
I think to an extent, and I love it, honestly. Like,
so
we saw Direwolves bring a bit of OSA yesterday, and it was actually working out quite well for them. Clips as well, we were starting to employ a bit of OSA. I think there's some really interesting usages of the shield. You know, you can play it a little bit more like a blitz without a pistol if you want, or you can place in those positions. Like, I really like the position there that Pika's got just outside of that piano double, when he's able to hold down Library Hallway with that clear shield very comfortably.
That's what you love to see. There goes the information for pretty much anything you would need if you're an attacking side. Flank drones were watching perfectly, and you can see right now those shields are working to absolute perfection. We've got one on the double wall, on the double door, as well as across toward the left-hand side of this library hallway. Hysterics, though, finds Souffle in amongst all of the chaos. Shadow bites back, and now Direwolves have the advantage.
Just going strong here is Direwolves. Their time management in particular, really great. They're not really getting stalled out by a lot. They're getting set up beautifully. They're winning these gunfights just everywhere. And 2v4 now for IG. Joe, that was a great shot. He's going to have to try and hold this library, which he doesn't. And that means Jordan, he's going to have to try and hold it up for IG on this round.
Jordan has been able to do a couple of dirty things in the past. He's actually going to regress up library stairs, which the big question is, Direwolves expecting this. Have they been able to read into it? It looks like there's a player sitting back, and ED will find the kill as free as can be. Another convincing round from Direwolves there.
Actually was, and this is a little concerning for I being said. This is what we would have expected yesterday. You know, Chalet is like this. Prefaced it before, I'm not going to dive into it, but generally the attacking sides will have their favored halves, and this is looking really good for Direwolves. This is night and day compared to how their attacks were progressing yesterday. I think in the end they only got 2 attacks. Can't quite remember. Don't have the match tracker in front of me. But already this is looking really strong. I love that their time management is on point. Like, they're keeping their attack progressing, and when they're facing some kind of issue, it looks like they're really tackling it as a team, which yesterday they were getting picked off one by one, or sometimes just going a little bit too quick, and the wave of IG in their defense would just run over them. It's very different today, and it's it's looking really good for Direwolves at this stage.
It's always a good sign when you see teams start to set into a level of comfort, and it's something for IG that they certainly have to monitor. Direwolves get too comfortable, and you're going to be in a bit of strife, but I think that, you know, in that round in particular, what we've seen from Direwolves on Villa was a fair amount of aggression on their attacking side. You know, like a lot of those first engagements weren't going their way. I don't want to say not winning their ones, but for the most part, there were a lot of ones not being won, so it's very easy to point that out. However, what they were able to achieve there with the OSA kind of extending across and taking the entire library hallway, watching down library stairs, and then also being able to push in on Mez and put pressure on library, really just took out all of that control that IG had tried to establish early in the round. So, big fan that Direwolves are not just being aggressive, but are being quite methodical about it, are thinking, you know, what is the right thing to do here. And so far, the playstyle with his OSA has been an interesting sight to see.
It has, and it feels like it's working out fairly well for them, so I'm glad to see that they're sticking with this. But now the pressure starts to go kind of back under IG here. How are they going to adapt to the way that this is progressing? Oh my word, Shadow's so close to finding that opening kill, and that would have been very helpful for Direwolves in this first minute. And certainly a bit of a tilted for IG, but I digress. First minute in, and you can see already Direwolves just so well set up to be able to get themselves into the map here. Pika already getting pressure forward with his Talon 8 shields. And I don't know, haven't seen a whole lot of IG set up at this stage. Feel like it's about the philosophy, but philosophy me this, Asterix is dead, and this is not looking like a great start for IG.
No, not again. Not again. Hysterix had a good map on Villa, but has been quiet so far here on Chalet. And once again, you're just watching how little time Direwolves are wasting here to take control of that second floor, which has been a huge point of contention for IG. An unsuccessful one at that so far. Hang on a second. Not going to be able to use both those shields to the perfect degree, but at the bare minimum, they should be able to get one more off.
Yeah, great adaptation to keep the impacts in the pocket for Joe, so that he can deal with those shields, and then that way Library Hallway is just a little bit more comfortable. Shadow very close to taking off his teammate's head. That wouldn't have been great, but here we are into this minute, final minute I should say, and this is feeling a little bit better for IG at least. Still lost Hysteric, but they kind of slowed the bleeding a little bit. It's great control. Love that from Joe, but ED with the frag grenade raining down on Luna. Direwolves, they just can't be stopped at this stage.
Oh god, Souffle just rips the head off of Jordan. It's going to be a flawless round. Joe tries to leg it back in, but is not going to be allowed to do so. Direwolves looking so damn convincing.
Starting to get a little bit concerning. Giving me shades of Oregon from yesterday, honestly. A little bit different with the way that it's progressing, but at the end of the day, Direwolves up 3-0. I was not expecting this. I really was not. I was thinking Invictus based on the way they were playing in map 1, and the fact that they beat Direwolves and Chalet yesterday fairly comfortably, that this would be the opposite, but no, Direwolves really impressing.
And I think for me as well, like that take on that second floor toward library and toward library stairs, that is like, that's premeditated 100%. Direwolves have worked on that because you can see the points that they're hitting, the mini games they're trying to win early on. Like you said, the adaptation from Invictus to have, I believe, was it the Wamai with the
impacts?
Yeah, with the impacts. It was Wamai, wasn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
I really like the fact that Invictus brought the impacts to try and potentially stop OSA from having that impact. But Direwolves adapt really quickly and managed to punish him as well. As he went to throw one of those impacts, there was a nade being cooked from Jackie. Oh, God, I don't even know.
I think it was
now.
ED.
There you go, ED.
Yep.
It was too on the Mav, yeah. So there's just like small little points here where Direwolves are really ticking off the checklist, and Invictus just haven't had a response yet. But we now head across toward Master and Office to hopefully have some sort of success.
Yeah, a bit of a reset back to what they tried in round 1. Now, Luna, he is going to 6th back to the Clash, it looks like. I feel like IG would probably read into this, and they would know where the weak point was. It looked like on the other side of the map, maybe through Solo, I didn't quite see that Direwolves kind of just exploded through it, and that's where they just kind of overran IG. It was about the halfway point of the round. So for IG, it's probably just about, hey, let's just be really mindful of the fact that that was weak for us last time. play around it differently, because I think, again, this Clash is still such a strength for IG. Luna is a great Clash player, and to lean into the weakness of Direwolves yesterday, they just could not handle this Clash for the life of them.
Please, for Invictus' sake. Please. Make this work. Give us something to behold, because right now Direwolves are well and truly in control of this. Now, this is how it started out on Villa for Invictus. They were able to take the first 3 rounds, I think, or even 4 rounds straight, before Direwolves did bite back. But even when they did, it just was too little too late. The control was far too impressive. And I don't know what Direwolves' defense was like yesterday, but I would hedge a bet to say, provided they can find another round here on this attack, I think they've set themselves up incredibly well for a second half. If it's not going to be OT, I think it will be a win. So, really impressed so far.
Definitely need to keep the foot on the pedal, though. I think a 4-2 half would be really comfy for Direwolves. If Invictus managed to bring this back to be 3-3 as they rotate to attacks, it would be huge. So, certainly important for Direwolves to not lip. So they're going to try and collect this early info. Not too much different on IG's setup here. Again, I think they really felt confident in the way that they were organized, at least, with that first round. It's just more being caught off guard and allowing Direwolves that entry point very comfortably. They kind of just let that slip.
Yep.
So I like that from IG. You know, be confident in yourselves. Direwolves have just been a bit of a different selves on Chalets. So I don't know. I think IG can weather this.
I agree. If there's any team that's going to be able to do it in this tournament, IG should be the team that kind of dust themselves off and realign what they're trying to achieve here. ED on the Mavericks should be able to make light work of this office wall, but whether they decide to do so and where they decide to do so is really like the big question. It does look like they're going to go for that long line that tries to stop that rotate back into Master. And of course, with the OSA, they can just peek in there for free. They don't need to worry about it. They can see right through the defense of Invictus now. Shadow might be able to punish if someone overextends from IG.
It's a much better setup compared to the Direwolves. They have a lot of really good rotates cut off now already. Certainly going to have to be a little bit worried about it's progressing past this point. They've got a minute left to play. Shadow tagged heavy at that bathroom window. It's about how they move forward from here. Luna is still that looming pain in the butt to deal with on the Clash in through Piano and Office. He's certainly going to make it very difficult for them to plan and also just be giving all this live intel.
Really liking the use of OSA. Just bit by bit, peeking in. Peeking with some nice timing there. Might be able to utilize that a little bit further. He actually falls back to his second shield. Duflay now coming from underneath. 30 seconds. Raven, have they done enough?
I think they're not set up quick enough here. I think this is going to be a very rough little execute. They might have to go for frags. It's not in the hands of anybody at this stage. Don't think they have a very good entry. Going to be rough.
Oh, Shadow, though. He does manage to find one. They've got to be super cautious now. They're taking control of Office. Peak has actually been able to send it in a little bit deeper. Shuts down Joe and Luna as well. In turn, Hysterics does find something. It's Hysterics. It's Speakeasy. It's the 2 gunners for IG. They hold on. And only barely. The Aruni runs right into the crosshair. The waiting open arms of Shadow. But they can't convert.
That was literally half a second away of being a Direwolves round, but IG, at the end of the day, you look at that round count, they got it. So for them, they can take a deep breath. They don't have to go back to Master and Office anymore, right? That ship has sailed. They're just got to try and work on getting these sites working for them. Bar Gaming has just not been doing too great so far against Direwolves.
Whew. God damn. Give me a heart attack out here. I can't believe that. In the crosshair as well, of all places. We now head back across to Bar Gaming, to which Invictus have had no success on. And, oh, you're really seeing the adaptation from Invictus now. Look how many impacts they're bringing. Look how many. They are over it. They are so done with it.
Plus the C4 from Jordan. Like, pretty much everybody besides Luna has something to throw at this Oster.
That's hilarious. I mean, look, it's quite a pivotal part of this take that Direwolves have been trying to manipulate more and more often. If they can clear out those shields early, if they can find that piece of the puzzle that just seems to be missing for them, they might be able to slow Direwolves down completely. But they also need to be careful. There's a lot of utility that they're not bringing because of those impacts now.
It's definitely true, but it seems like there's a bit of a philosophy change here. Speakeasy trying to be a bit of a pest on the other side of the map. We saw Direwolves enter fairly swiftly both times Bargaming was defended. On that master side, they're establishing their controlling through Office and Piano, really pushing out the players around Library and Library Stairs, and that's kind of facilitating how well or how strongly Direwolves have actually won these previous rounds. So I kind of like this. I'm really curious to see how it will go. On top of that, I've really just become aware Speakeasy just hasn't been having a great day. It's actually surprising. He's really one of the most consistent players I've seen perform, and even in map 1, you know, he had a bit of a quiet one.
Yeah. Which sucks, because literally part of my statement when we were looking at the match lineups was that Speakeasy is one of the most consistent clutch players for any team that we have in the wider APAC region, let alone APAC South. So to see this is a bit of a concern for IG, but regardless, we've still got that ability to turn it on its head at any given moment. And I guess that's probably the thing right now is when you look to Invictus and you look at or you look at Direwolves and you look at the shift that they've had here, they're approaching the site completely differently now.
Yeah, this is a very different push. This is something that we've seen from other teams as well in the past, where they really try and take that snowmobile control, flush out that wine stock, and they start to really give a bit of an onslaught of sight. Now, great sign for IG here. Hysterix has found that opening pick.
Bang.
He's found a double. That's huge for IG.
Oh, God, that's how you want to make your statement. Invictus flawlessly shut them down. My, oh my. We got a game on our hands.
That's it's a very important round for Invictus, because not only do they need these rounds in the books, they need some momentum, man. Like, it's one thing to win that last round, which kind of just fell into their favor in the nick of time. That was different. That was a flawless round. They absolutely ran over the top of Direwolves, and that's going to feel good. They've got one more round left for this half. I'm sure they're going to be up and about after the way that went. They're going to kitchen dining for the first time. I'm feeling good about this potentially being a 3-3, and I think that just would be so big for Invictus in the context of this first half.
Interesting to see Direwolves just unwavered on their lineup. Oh God, of course.
Why not?
Why do I even open my mouth? I mean, it's a good talking point, because this is probably I would say it's the only site you really need to definitely bring soft breach on. You know, like in terms of the vertical control, this is a site that is highly contested from above. And you're going to see it, I would dare say, Invictus will probably look to hold on to Master and Office for as long as possible, if not the whole round. So we'll see whether that sledge, the change, the adaptation, changes at all. But nevertheless, this well and truly could be Invictus making their mark and shutting this series down in a quick 2-0 fashion.
That's definitely what they're going to want, because again, in the context of the series, right, or context of the whole weekend, they've got to play a BO5 final against the Cyclops. After this, they'll get a half hour to 45-minute break once you include all the showy parts that we have to do for the broadcast. But, you know, you want to get to that break point as quick as possible. You don't want to have to play a really sweaty 3-map series and then have to show up for that best of 5. You want to try and finish it off in the 2-0. So certainly for Invictus, they've got the opportunity. If they get that 3-3 half here, that's what they're going to be eyeing off for sure.
Alrighty. Down to it here for Invictus, looking for that 3-3 half. It would be the best case scenario after what was such an explosive start from Direwolves. I'm going to pop in and say hello from up above. Down toward Mez. Pika not wasting any time in taking control of Mez and potentially Office as well. There's two players, one in Master, one in Office. Whether they decide to hold the line to Office door or not, yet to be seen.
Very important gunfight's about to happen here. As you were saying before, Manic, this is a really important map control to hold on to. Speak Easy has opened that scorecard. He's taken out Shadow, the Finker. So there go the Adrenal Surges, no longer in play. But Lion still in play here. Certainly going to try and help Direwolves keep those roamers in position and try and facilitate this pinch that they so desperately need to come out on top of.
He could be fruitful, doesn't actually connect. Jordan as well, even contemplating more of an aggressive push. Luna finds one, at least ED manages to trade, but I mean the trade is for Hysterics, although he's been probably the most impactful player this series. He's not going to be needed in this round, I would dare say. A minute left.
Minute left indeed. IG certainly want to hold onto this man advantage, and I really love this angle from Speak Easy. Certainly could be one to catch their opponents off guard. And look, they're not going to have a whole lot of time for this vertical play as well. At least ED survived, if you're thinking about Direwolves here. He's going to be able to get that vert play. Finally, IG, they check out of there. They feel good about that, surely. They've got the man advantage. They've burnt a lot of time. And it's going to create a bit of a chaotic end of round here for Direwolves.
How did that not hit? I was almost certain that C4 was going to connect. 25 seconds, and Dire will slowly put themselves in the position. The man advantage in the hands of IG. The position in favor of IG. Jordan just misses an fortunate opportunity to shut down Osa coming down the staircase. Joe's going to be watching on the side by side now. Smoke comes out from Pika. ED gets shut down, and Souffle, Pika are all too soon to fall. IG bring it back 3 apiece in the first half.
Man, and quite the momentum swing as well. Like Direwolves, that was a really strong 3-0 lead that they built themselves. And then off the back of a more kind of round 1, the first one that Invictus got, and round 4, the timer just expired milliseconds before Direwolves found that final kill. Since then, though, flawless round for Invictus, and that one may as well have been flawless. That was honestly so well defended. They held their ground beautifully in the vertical play, covered each other well, dropped off at the right time before they actually had to try and go for more contests. And then at the end, they just had really well held line of sights to cover each other and just ensure that Direwolves just really had no shot. And I love that from IG. And now, fully, momentum is kind of in their favor as they've now switched to the attack side.
Yep. That's it. The vast majority of our conversations, the attacking side has always been favoured on Chalet. Statistically backed up, I don't exactly know, but a lot of our conversations for Oceania and APAC South has been that Chalet is one of the only attacker-sided maps in the pool at the moment, next to potentially Coastline, you could add. But digging deeper now for Invictus, like you've already said, I put it up on the platter for everyone at home. The momentum has just been an unbelievable swing, and something that I think is just going to be too detrimental for Direwolves to fight back on. I would say they have to come out swinging once again, but I still don't even know if that's going to be enough. What Invictus have shown us in these past couple of rounds is that no matter how badly they're down, they will always find a way back into a game.
Definitely when they've got their rhythm and they've got their composure, they are such a formidable opponent in that regard. Definitely times, yesterday comes to mind as well, where you can really tell when they're kind of off their mental game and they do start to struggle with that adaptation, but it doesn't seem to be the case today. Like, they looked so good in map 1. They're starting to look really good here on Chalet, and yeah, I think that's certainly a danger sign for Direwolves, certainly a danger sign for Cyclops should this be a 2-0 or Invictus progress in general. But yeah, look, I'm really curious to see what IG are going to have in store for us in these attacks.
Well, apparently nothing. Souffle is going to shut down the first player, Raven. That's how this first round's going to go. What's the bet? Will start off with 3 clean rounds, then Invictus bring it back another 3 just for OT, just for the sake of it, for the lols. Well, we'll wait and see whether that's the case, because as of right now, 1 player down, being the Sledge, pretty detrimental. They can still make it back, and Joe's starting to.
Yeah, good to even that one out. They've still got half the round to play, and look, this positioning is that bad, honestly. Shadow also, I think that was trying to be a flank. Yeah, he's going back through kitchen now. Tried to get up there, couldn't quite make it. Now Jackie Wu has fallen. This is looking a lot better for IG, but the effect of Thunderbird, I don't know if anyone saw that. Shadow's been able to heal himself at least. That's certainly going to help a little bit.
ED now just making himself a nuisance. That nade could be perfectly put to Joe there. That's going to force him out, surely. How is ED not dead there? There was an opportunity. There we go. They just absolutely swarm around him. Shield break and all. Now Shadow left to pick up the pieces. Is there even going to be an opportunity for one singular kill? I couldn't imagine.
Couldn't imagine it. No, definitely not. For Shadow, this is going to be a tough ask here. 1 versus 4 in a post-plant situation. He's not even anywhere near the site. I think he's resided to the fact it ain't happening. So they're probably just having a bit of a timeout, bit of a chat, saying, guys, we've just lost 4 rounds in a row.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
It starts in laughter, usually ends in tears, Raven, as my mother used to say. So, or it's all fun and games until someone gets hurt. I think we're starting to hurt Direwolves a bit. Shadow, not long for the world at all. And this is really making a mark here for Invictus. If you're CAG, not really shaking in your boots by any means, but a very impressive Villa. The adaptations to the aggression, the changes in lineups to ensure that they could fully utilize what Direwolves were trying to do. Now into Chalet, where they get spanked in the first 3 rounds, only to bring 4 back straight. I mean, these are some pretty scary signs, and IG a roster that well and truly could take this best of 5 coming up after this.
Yeah, look, definitely could. And I think from the get-go, we kind of all expected, felt like it would be IG and CAG in that grand final. And this isn't over. Like, this series is certainly still alive. Direwolves, they're only 1 round behind, but IG have just looked very different today. And in general, like, I feel like this weekend has been very reminiscent for me of the stage 3 in general we saw from IG. Like, they really peaked towards the end of the stage, and even as they went through playoffs in stage 2, I think it was stage 2, it was a similar thing. They kind of started a little shaky in the playoffs, and as they progressed through the bracket, they just looked better and better and better. It's certainly something to be said about them as they play these kinds of tournaments. If they're not out early, you know they're probably in it for the long haul.
Very true. And you got to remember as well, IG actually only just managed to pull it back in stage 2 to head to the playoffs. It came down to the last possible game, I believe. So there are so many ways in which you can kind of, or points at which you can look at and say, yeah, like it backs it up that IG, as they progress through tournaments or through seasons, leagues, whatever you want to put them in, they get better and they get more violent and aggressive. Right now, it seems like they may well be peaking at the right time, with, of course, SI looming quite large. The last opportunity for any APAC team to make it into the illustrious tournament in what is less than 30 days away now. This is when you need to stand tall.
Certainly is. So, conversely, Direwolves, you've got to get some adaptation happening here. What can you do to kind of start this momentum from IG? First minute in, we still haven't seen a gunfight, still haven't seen a pick. Certainly is going to favour the defense. IG being very cool with their setup. You can see them all still fairly spread out with this push. Certainly don't want to overextend, but IG, they've now made progress in towards Library. It is, of course, Master and Office as the site. So just getting this control in general, it certainly does help quite a bit.
A bomb has been located.
Home can take a breather as I do too. Or that could have been an opportunity for Asterix. Just not in the position to capitalize. I'm sure there would have been a trade, so it's probably not the greatest of opportunities. But anytime I hear an air jab, there's an opportunity to find yourself a kill. Now, Invictus this is just the calm before the storm, the preparation before the war. They did an incredible job last time at bringing back a man disadvantage. They haven't been able to chip away at Direwolves' defense in the same way this time.
No, quite surprising. We still haven't had that opening kill, and we're into the last minute. certainly is going to favour the decent setup. It's just spilled out a little bit from IG, just kind of bringing back in some time management issues with their attack. That nade is not going to hit the mark on Jackie Wu, barely even touches him in fact. He certainly is proving to be such a pest in that corner of piano with the shotgun on Ella. And right here, this is starting to be concerning for IG and looking good for Direwolves. 30 seconds to go and very little progress towards side has been made.
Yeah, Joe not getting all the intel he would have wanted there. There's a player that's prone behind piano. I don't know whether they're going to be able to see it. Shadows underneath. Speakeasy is down on the ground with Hysterics trying to find a way in here. Luna 2, they're going to have to try and find that opening kill. Jackie Wu, who was prone behind, goes down. Joe can't find the shots through the concussion. The confusion now being caused. Direwolves, this is devastating. Invictus collapse, and there's absolutely no hope for Direwolves. What a late round execute from IG.
That was unreal too. Like, I really thought Direwolves was so set up for victory on that, but the team push through piano was just beautiful from IG. They really covered each other well. The Grishmot almost ruined things. I can't remember who died to it from the bathroom angle, but regardless, it was just still really well covered from IG. A really good display of teamwork. And now they are only 2 rounds away from taking this map and taking this series.
Well, it seems inevitably so at this point. Storyline completely flipping here. Direwolves, they had the opportunity. It seemed like they had potential with the map veto, the way that it went. The fact that they may have felt like Villa was their opening piece. And then Chalet, well, I mean, IG shaky on Chalet to say the very least, but not today. Absolutely no doubt that they can make this work. And we've said it through and through. Attacking side, generally the more favoured of the two. And they're making it work right now with no hesitation and no response from Direwolves.
I think that's the concerning thing. That being said, I mean, to be fair to Direwolves at least, like, they had that last round, I'm not going to say in the bag, but like, it was looking real good for them. But I just think IG are better than them today. And that was kind of the difference yesterday. You know, IG looked, it's like I said earlier, just not quite as clean, didn't look as comfortable, but today is definitely a different story. They've been able to adapt really well, and I feel like just what they're bringing is just doing such a much better job at countering everything that Direwolves is throwing at them.
Yeah. I couldn't disagree, even if I wanted to. Even if I wanted to find a way to try and spin that, there's no way. They've just really been on point, and you've just seen it from Villa. It was the perfect example. Started off incredible, finished it incredible, and now on Chalet they have managed to fight back on. Direwolves have really utilised that Osa in the first 3 rounds, to Invictus being able to pretty much utilise it to their own promotion almost. And now,
5 seconds left.
all the storylines in the world may not be able to save Direwolves. They came into this unprepared, and not to the fault of them, not to the fault of their own. They were given the opportunity at the last minute, and boy, have they put on a show for us, really testing both IG and CAG. But this may well be where they bow out with the power and confidence that we're seeing from Invictus. Look how much control they're taking earlier on here.
Yeah, this is really great from Luna. Such important map control to take, and just to get it so swiftly, it's really going to facilitate more of a mid-round execute, and that's big for IG because, look, they are more of a late-round execute kind of team. Sometimes they struggle a little bit with the time management. We saw it on the previous round. So this would be really great. If Luna finds an opening here, it could be on.
I'd love to know how far Luna has progressed now. We saw him push into dining, but from there, I don't think we saw too much more. I don't think he's moved outside of that. Joe goes to half HP. Now they're going to be careful. There's actually a player all the way down in the basement that could flank up through dining. Joe trying to find at least something to open up. But Speakeasy goes down. Hysterics might be next up on the chopping block, and he is. Pika manages to re-peek around the corner. And now things are looking much, much better for the Wolves.
Yeah, they're just finding IG a little bit spread out here, so these 1v1s just not going in the favour of IG this time around. You're not on the hunt down to Snowmobile, but yeah, look, great setup. Little barricade there on Connector is just going to give that player playing around Blue and Snowmobile just that little inkling that someone is coming in his direction. And this has now created quite the stall for IG. They don't have the ground that they had before. Sure, they've taken a little bit of vertical control here, but it's really library is what they need. And without the manpower to kind of take that, it's going to be very tough and very awkward.
I don't see their way in. I don't see this path for them. If Luna can potentially find the kill onto Peter, alleviates the pressure down below. They've still got to deal with the top floor and the first floor. Right now, they are giving themselves something to work with.
Themselves something. Certainly still an opening, but time, I think, is their biggest enemy right now. They are less than 40 seconds. That's certainly going to help.
Wow.
Joe just takes the face of Jackie Wu. And in this 3v3 scenario, IG, they could push themselves to match point with a win here.
Imagine. Invictus down 3-5 and managed to bring it back. Shadow is really trying to shut this down. In and over the top of the vault. Joe now has library control, but not for long. Shadow once again steps up. And in doing so, gives all of the pressure to Jordan. Really cleanly done from Direwolves there. And now, not just done yet on Chalet, but even then, you still had that inkling. You still had that feeling that Invictus were in that.
It did. It really felt like they brought themselves back into contention. But not to be, Direwolves standing up, certainly going to help them breathe a sigh of relief because they were up 3-0. Invictus got 5 rounds consecutively. You know, that never really feels good to face that. So to finally get that momentum breaker. We'll see whether it helps Direwolves. It certainly looks like one of their better rounds for sure. And Invictus, I don't know, every time 5, it's certainly a scary feat. Because as soon as they win one, Wolves know that they have to push overtime.
Trying to conserve energy here because I do feel like, you know, Direwolves could just do what Direwolves do best and completely bamboozle all of us at home. Send it to a third map. That's the problem, is you just never know. Like, most times with teams, you have like a pretty good feeling when things are going bad and there's no way in, like there's no way back into the game. You know, like when Invictus on Villa, for example, were looking so dominant. Any other team, I would pretty much be like, nah, just pack it in. Invictus have got this map. Start thinking about Chalet. But Direwolves, I just sit there and go, what if? but ED, it's Souffle. You know, like you just, at any given moment, one of these players will just step up and really turn the tide of a game. And Direwolves are still in Chalet, as much as I can't believe I'm really saying that. Invictus have looked the better of the two teams. But, you know, doesn't really matter. If someone gets the 7 first, it's all done and dusted. So we'll wait and see for Direwolves, though. That's a very long way between then and now.
Absolutely is sort of a mountain to climb for IG. Could be much, much smaller, at least for this series. 2 round wins away. Now, they are attacking kitchen and dining this time around. First time we're seeing that from Direwolves. They did the double repeat of Master Office. And IG certainly looking to take their time again, being very thorough here with a lot of these drones. Now, just to remind you, vertical play, very important on kitchen dining. You want to have Office, you want to have Master, all destructible floors, and it can be very claustrophobic for players trying to play on site once you've got that. So it usually is step 1, and it looks like it's exactly what IG are going for.
With a really nice drone in Astra, I believe that was. That's so much intel as well, because generally you are going to see 1, if not 2 players playing toward the backside of Master. It actually looks like Direwolves are putting more attention into Master than what I originally thought. 3 players with 1 facing up toward Piano that was Souffle and taken down now. It could be to their detriment. How has he gotten away with that?
I think he slowed down a little bit with that stun, and unfortunately that did stop that follow-on pick. IG continuing to trade. Joe, though, he's been taken out as well. 3 versus 3. They're fighting hard for this vertical control. They've finally got it coming to this last minute. That does leave a lot of pressure now for Jackie Wu and ED. They are the last two players alive for Direwolves. The last two players to try and stop this one from at least going to OT if Direwolves are going to try and salvage the map.
I feel like with the positioning that both ED and Jackie Wu have, there's no particularly safe place to plant. Like, there's not a default that would be safer than another. I feel like they're both in a position to try and re-aggress. Actually, one's on the staircase in the basement. I'm wrong. I thought he was actually just out on the inside of dining. But Invictus now pushing from what seems to be that upper side with 20 seconds left.
Going to be a very hectic little execute here. Jackie Wu and ED, a lot of pressure on their shoulders. Jackie's got a lot to cover here. He's getting pinched. Sterix finds one Manic. Could this be match point?
Oh, Jackie Wu, he's been able to do it before, and it looks like he may do it again. Hysterics, where is he? Jackie Wu, has he held on? What a clutch in a 1 versus 3. They're not done. There's no match point yet for Invictus.
Oh my, that was unbelievable. I really thought Jackie Wu just had no hope in that one, and he played the position of Kitchen beautifully. Unfortunately for IG, I saw that the frost mat actually ended the window play. I didn't quite see who it was, so that's got to suck. But look, 5-5. There's definitely got to be some belief in Direwolves' camp. That being said, they're on Master Bedroom Office now. They've lost it twice already. This could be breaking the curse. And if they do so, it actually pushes them to the match. Actually unbelievable.
I'm telling you, there's only one team that I can never write off. Ever. And it is Direwolves. There's just this, I don't know, there's this aura around the team. They are one of a kind. There is absolutely no doubt about it. Now, we really may well go to a third map, which will be the first time we're going to see Cafe. I mean, I can't even believe I'm saying that in an APAC tournament. We're going to see see Cafe for potentially the first and last time in what is, I think, the fifth series that we've had so far in the past 2 days. So, again, I don't want to jump the gun, but this is why I was saving my energy, Raven. This is why I was holding back, because I needed to, because you never know.
That's right. You never know. 2 rounds either way will give somebody this map. Or find out who. Or, of course, it could be OT. That certainly would be spicy. We've already seen an OT between these two teams this weekend. That was yesterday. 8-7 on Bank. Dial 1 in the end. So they've certainly got it in them. Master Office is the challenge. They have lost it twice already, and it didn't look great either time.
Yep.
A bomb has been located.
Hasn't been convincing by any means. And we do apologize. I'm just going to address it. We apologize for the sound bug. Nothing we can do. It makes the dead air on broadcast a little bit more awkward, and we definitely like a little bit more of dead air, especially just to take a breather. But oh god, you know who's not taking a breather, Raven? That's Shadow, because he's not going to slow down. Joe might be able to find Souffle on the vault, and now, with a very quick trade, that is actually a pivotal part for Invictus. They've been able to take mezzanine control, and now they may be able to start to utilize some of that. The big issue is there's no Jordan. There's no hard breacher now.
Yeah, it's really going to make it tough. No secondary hard either. So that's it. They're going to be hard now, and that's going to create some issues for IG. You really want at least a line of sight, if not an entryway in through Office. So without that, it's certainly going to make this even more challenging. The double reinforcement on the library stairs facing side as well means there's just no way. It's just an absolute hidey hole kind of in the back of us. It's really going to make the rest of this push quite difficult for Invictus. And I really witnessed the death of a drone so we can get our sound back. It's usually what fixes the sound bug.
It's not going to happen. I feel like it's never going to happen. If Prod can hear us, just watch anyone on the drone. Literally anyone on a drone. But no, I think it's a little bit too more. There's too much on the line right now. You are literally talking about the fact that one of these teams are going to bow out of the tournament completely, and one will push on to the grand final, and it may not be IG at this point because Jackie Wu is going to find another one very quickly. Done from ED to double down. Luna and Speakeasy. All that remains for Invictus.
Certainly is. And that just falls even further. Luna all on the shoulders. Not going to happen. Dire Wolves. They are on match point here, Manic. They've pushed it. They've pushed it. They've finally won Master Office. And this is starting to get a little bit worrying for Invictus. They may be needing to dig deep for a third map.
Here we go. Call it. It's Dire Wolves. You don't ever count them out. Invictus will be sitting there, shaking their heads. Now, read into this Chalet pick whatever you want. However you want to look at this Chalet pick, go for it. Because to be fair, some would probably argue it's a good pick for them. Some would argue that maybe they're trying to hide some of their stats on, or some of their strats on, the likes of Clubhouse and maybe even Cafe, which are two of their better maps, Oregon included in that. It is statistically, Chalet is statistically their absolute worst map outside of Bank, which, I mean, I kind of brush Bank off a little bit at this point. The clean slate in 2022 for them, but certainly Chalet has had its time to set into the meta and set into the play style. So I do find it intriguing that Invictus continue to push on here, and it could well be to their detriment. They could potentially have been done in 2 maps, and now Dire Wolves, they're really pushing this, and IG might well make a meal of it.
They might do, and that would certainly not be great, because preface it again, remember the winner of this series, they have BO5 fairly shortly after this entire series concludes. You really don't want it to be on the third map. IG, they have the fortune, or the skill, I guess, to overcome a map pick on the first map, Villa. They have had that opportunity to take this 2-0. They may not do so. Really important for them to push this one to OT.
It's got to be done. It has to be done. Maybe we can make some noises at the start of this round. Pew, pew, pew.
Oh, no.
If there weren't such high stakes, I would definitely be throwing out some pew, pew, pews. But we are talking about the potential of a third map or overtime here.
Shoot it.
Yes. There we go.
Are we back?
Yes!
Oh,
Let's go!
This is actually the biggest dub of the series, I'll tell you what.
That's what we needed. No one wanted to hear manage pew, pews. No one. Including myself, to be fair. So now we get to really hone in on the magic. 2 minutes left in what could be the deciding factor as to whether we head to Cafe or not. And Pika is making it work. IG down the man and trying to break this defense of Dire Wolves.
Not a great start for IG at all. First minute, they lose Joe. Thankfully for them, not the most detrimental utility loss off the board, but Joe has been in pretty decent form so far in this map, and even today in general. And you say at the weekend, he actually played fairly well for them yesterday. So look, that's not great. They got 90 seconds though to try and turn this one around, try and find some map progression here. Again, being bug gaming, they're going to want to try and take this library control, surely, and try and get that vertical play happening. And important part of that is going to be clearing these players around the mezzanine and top library stairs.
Already trying to do so. They're actually getting aggressive there, and Jordan was not able to deal with it as handily as he might have liked to. That was the line that he was looking to hit. Dire Wolves keep getting away by the skin of their teeth, but not for much longer. Now with Pika incredibly low, this makes things difficult. We're getting into the minute mark, and now Invictus are starting to claw this back. OT looming large, but it's Jackie Wu who finds one and potential a second. Luna gets picked up by the Adrenal Surge.
IG, they're in a position that's looking good, but I tell you what, they lost to 3v1 in the last round, so I'm not feeling too confident still. They've also lost a lot of time here. 35 seconds on the board. Not much in either. This is going to be a scary little execute for IG.
So there's a player at the back of stock. Across toward mud. IG, do they have the openings they're looking for? They've got a little bit of the vertical control, but ED's been able to find one, find two! Jackie Wu shuts it down, and we are heading to a third map. Cafe will decide the fate for our grand finalists.
Unreal efforts from Dire Wolves. Absolute credit to them. The comeback was real. They were up 3-0, and then they went down to, 5-3, and then they managed to just reverse sweep IG within that map. Like, oh, honestly, that was just from Dire Wolves. pushed us to Cafe. Of course they did. How could we not expect this, Matic?
It's like it was written in the stars all along, Raven.
Yeah.
What an interesting finish to the map as well. Dire Wolves, you 100% have to give them the credit. And it's funny, you know, I did make the joke about me trying to conserve energy, but that's the problem. That really is the problem with what Dire Wolves do. Just on a dime, they flick, and all of a sudden, it's like they're a completely different team. And you saw it there. IG just every which point they went to, they were met with a player, they were met with aggression, and it did not feel like they were able to tame that in the way that they had been able to in the previous 4 rounds. But how wild's that? It was, what, 3 rounds straight, then 5 rounds straight, then 4 rounds straight. That is, it's not very often you see streaks like that.
It's not often you do, no. And look, it's very impressive because IG just felt like they'd built such momentum. The way they'd performed in the first map as well was already fairly momentous. So look, I think that's a fairly impressive back, and talked about, you know, IG sometimes feels like when they get into a bit of a mental pit, it can be a little bit challenging for them. I don't know, hard to say whether that is a bit of a tilter. They had that one, not quite in the bag, but pretty close to it. So now they're going to have to play a whole 3rd map. I'm going to be trying to think about this BO5 afterwards as well. This is starting to get worrying because I know this is how I felt yesterday. I feel confident somehow that IG is probably going to win this 2-1, but Dire Wolves pulled out that 7-0 in Oregon yesterday. Like, why couldn't they do it again? It's just Cafe.
Right, it's just Cafe. And what's really interesting as well is all three. What am I doing? Both of these teams will have played 9 maps before the grand final.
Oof.
Both teams, 9 maps with a potential 5 to go in the grand final. One of these teams will be walking away with maybe 14 maps played in the space of less than 30 hours. That would be an absolute hellstorm for these teams. But regardless, we're here, we're going to Cafe. Quick thoughts before we close things out and go to a break.
It's going to be really hard to predict, honestly. My gut feeling still feels like IG, but after what we just saw from Dire was a very impressive momentum flip. I don't know, hard to say.
It certainly is. You know what? I think we've done enough talking for now. We're going to go to a break. We're going to rest our breaths, and we suggest we're going to rest our voices. We suggest that you at home get you a breather. We'll be back after this with Cafe, our 3rd and final map of the series.
When you found me like that, I was doing not bad, didn't care about you. I was high as fuck, wasn't looking for love or anything new. It ain't funny, little devil in disguise, think you got me, yeah. You're so naughty, I feel something leaping into my body. Cause you shut me in the heart, can't get over it. In the other part of recovery, another what you done, you made me fall too fast. Wait.
Talk to me, I just want a little bit of company. You acting like you really wanna fall for me, but baby, can you tell me who you wanna be? Yeah. Talk to me, I just want a little bit of company. You acting like you really wanna fall for me, but baby, can you tell me who you wanna be? Yeah. I left my demons in my past. I still want something that can last. You make me feel like I'm okay. We both know that you feel the same. Ooh, baby, I got nothing else to prove. You talking about your best side of me. Remember that you always get to choose. Talk to me, I just want a little bit of company. You acting like you really wanna fall for me, but baby, can you tell me who you wanna be? Yeah. Talk to me, I just want a little bit of company. You acting like you really wanna fall for me, but baby, can you tell me who you wanna be? Yeah. I don't I don't wanna be friends, yeah, I guess you got my intention. Got no place I'd rather be, feel like another dimension. I don't wanna talk, baby, you should let it go. I don't wanna go, let me stay a little more. Talk to me, I just want a little bit of company. You acting like you really wanna fall for me, but baby, can you tell me who you wanna be? Yeah. Talk to me, I just want a little bit of company. You acting like you really wanna fall for me, but baby, can you tell me who you wanna be? Yeah.
And we are back for what will be the third and final map of this series. Gotta remember, one of these teams will go on to the grand final where they will have an opportunity to fight against CAG for the upcoming SI tournament in February. And the other team, well, they bow out with absolutely nothing. There's nothing. There's just commiserations from us and that's it. But Raven, what an effort from Direwolves to bring that back right when we thought it was over.
Yeah, look, it actually was huge. It really felt like IG had all the momentum. Again, like they built up so much momentum through the first map. Sure, Direwolves got the first 3 rounds of Chalet, but then IG got 5 in a row, and it was like, all right, like they're really just going to run away with this. But no, Direwolves had something else to say about it. 4 in a row for them to actually end up taking the map, which is absolutely crazy. And again, probably a little bit of a tilter for IG. They probably were looking at that 2-0, thinking, great, get it out of the way, let's get some rest, and we can focus on Cyclops. Nope, not to be. Now they're going to have to think about Cafe if they even want to think about Cyclops after that.
That's the problem, isn't it? They've got a whole nother map that they have to approach and attack in that aspect. Now, I guess for Invictus, for IG, look, they let the ball slip a bit there on Chalet, which we've been talking about all weekend long. What is the Chalet pick? Might be able to hear from, of course, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Luna, if they do end up winning the series. But one thing is for sure, Cafe is one of their better maps. They're 10-3 on it, so they've got a very convincing record. And on the flip side, Direwolves, not an awful record by any means, but they've got the same amount of losses and 8 less wins. So I say it's not a bad record. I'd have to go back and have a look at all the Cafe matches to see who they were against. Funnily enough, one of the games, yeah, you're clicking on it right now, aren't you, Raven?
I am.
You go. You
want
tell
me to
the
say it?
you
Okay.
tell the viewers at home.
Well, the most recent Cafe result for both these teams was actually against each other in the Southeast Asian Champions, and that was on the 28th of November, really not that long ago. Invictus Gaming won it 7-5. So
Yep.
close, but Invictus won it. So look, at least they'll have some recent history against each other on this map, and maybe that could come into some serious play here.
And look, Direwolves had played it only a week prior to that, but there's a huge asterisk next to that, and it was at the Mex Gauntlet, which for those of you who don't know, is just a meme tournament. So I would take no weight whatsoever with that match from Direwolves and Elevate, but they did lose 5-7. So the last 2 times Direwolves have played this, it's been against the 2 best teams in APAC South, or what I would consider the 2 best teams in APAC South in Elevate and Invictus, and they took them all the way to the full regulation. So yeah, like the conversation is definitely there that Direwolves could be really quite impressive on this. One thing I'm already realizing is Direwolves are yet again starting on the attack. They can't really catch a break. I really felt like if they'd been able to start on the defense, they may have had a better start to Villa. Cafe, I think, will be quite telling, because I do feel like it can definitely lean into a defender-sided map if it does end up playing that way. But I do say that, and on both teams, they have a higher attacker win percentage than they do defender, so I'll just shut up.
No, look, it was a good point. Overall, in APAC South, it's leaned 52% towards defense win rate, so look, there is some validity to that, but yeah, not much, a little bit balanced. I was actually digging deeper into IG's Cafe results, and actually, outside of more like local level competitions, like within Southeast Asia, the last 2 plays for them was actually in APAC South Stage 3. They lost 4-7 to Chiefs, and they lost 3-7 to Direwolves. So, it's not quite as strong as their overall statistics paint, because a lot of those victories have actually come at that local level, whereas we're really talking about a bit of a different league here. So, that has given me a little bit less faith in IG kind of for this map, but I distinctly remember the Direwolves loss, and that was really Direwolves throwing a lot of just, I don't know how to delicately say it, but a lot of random plays, let's say, at IG. And it was, again, a situation they struggled to deal with it. And that's what we saw yesterday on map 3 in Oregon. So, look, maybe it could be the same story again.
Could. Say that. Hope for that, because boy, wouldn't that be a storyline. But there's no doubting that, oh God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. The winner of this game may have to play 8 hours of Siege on Sunday to determine their SI run. So, no matter which way you cut it, both of these teams, when they do progress through to the grand final, will have played 3 full maps. It's not really 3 full maps, is it? Villa was a speed run for Invictus. So 2.5 full maps, which will be certainly an interesting point that I'm sure will kind of be talked about maybe in an interview afterwards or something of the sort, because I would imagine that's pretty damn tired. But we'll keep our attention to the familiar Cafe take of let's clear from the top floor down and over the weekends. Hope you're ready for the Cafe simulator.
I love that from Shadow as well. Just really cornered the mute there, the Gemini. But yeah, look, definitely a very procedural map in terms of the way that you take it. And there's not too many ways to take it. So yeah, it is a bit of that kind of classic Cafe dance. But this is a pretty important part of it. You really need to get this piano control. Otherwise, it's going to be pretty hard to attack Bar Cocktail. Of course, you can focus a little bit more on the Cocktail side. But it's a bit squishy. It involves a lot of window play. It's not the greatest. So yeah, teams will often default for this. First minute or so in, look, Direwolves not too bad. They've made some progress, but they haven't actually gotten in and gained that piano control just yet.
But they might start to poke around now. This is always the beautiful thing of having the Flores. It allows for those defenses just to be a little bit more hindered, because there is always so much utility on Cafe that you need to clear out. I am surprised that we didn't actually see that as the defensive-sided ban from, the attacking-sided ban from Invictus, but they've gone for much of a muchness. They've gone for the Thatcher instead. But they have banned out the Flores in both of the maps prior to this. Shadow just trying to find something to open up, but they are starting to take a little bit of control. A minute left, still a fair bit to do. Oh,
still a fair bit indeed, but yes, Hysterics has just lost that gunfight to Souffle, so that's going to help, and Shadow's found another. Direwolves continuing some of this momentum in towards Cafe here. Set themselves up fairly well now for an execute. Things have really started to shift. Got some really good progress, and IG haven't been able to throw much back.
Oh, goodness me. This is a a very telling tale at this point. Invictus just going to continue to be taken down player by player. Only Joe to remain and is pretty much welcomed by Shadow in the end. Wow. Cafe has started with a bang.
Cafe did start with a bang, and that was a very impressive bang from Direwolves. Near flawless, like basically was flawless. Joe Shaw, he got a constellation kill towards the end, but at the end of the day, like Direwolves absolutely ran over the top of IG in that final minute of that execute. Quite scary actually, and now you talked about the percentage differences in terms of attack defense between these teams on this map, and you said it leans attacker-sided. Well boy, that definitely kind of validated that.
Yeah. Goodness me. Gotta hope that, by the way, I do like the operator cards. I know Dev, or you mentioned it yesterday.
Yep.
I saw it at the end of last year, and I didn't really pay much attention to it, but I gotta admit, nice little addition there.
Attackers need to
That's
locate
cool.
and
It's a bit
defuse
cheeky,
as many
it's a bit
bombs as they
cheeky.
can.
And it makes it enjoyable. You know, just a little bit of customization to go along with it. But now looking toward this map, and toward this round in particular, Invictus most likely to extend above. It is, of course, a reading defense, which very few times will you see a defense hold that's not on the 3rd floor. Direwolves will be tested here in their clears and how quick and prompt they are. Again, leaning into those Moteros on peek up.
Attackers discovered the location.
I'm sure that they will be able to deal with that util decently quickly. That's all I'm going to say, decently.
Maybe. Certainly going to need to, because this is again, look, Cafe, very procedural, fairly, I wouldn't call them one-dimensional, but like there's not too many ways to structure your attack, and in particular this one, you kind of got 2 paths. You kind of try and take Cocktail, you've got about half the round to try and do so before it starts to get a bit sketchy, and getting your vertical pressure just takes too much time and starts to all fall away from you. Or you could ignore Cocktail completely, take Piano, take Train and Mining, and kind of try to facilitate something around a dining plant. That's kind of the 2 ways about it, so definitely curious to see where Direwolves are going to go with this. My gut instinct is they're probably going to try and quick clear Cocktail. I reckon they're going to want that map control, especially because they brought that sledge, right? Like they've really got everything they need to try to get vertical pressure. Souffle's got those breach charges as well. They can really mince that up and try and get themselves set for that reading plant.
There is a lot of util on that 2nd floor, 3rd floor, no doubt about it, so they're going to have to deal with that as quick as they possibly can. I think that, I don't know whether I heard an ADS go off then, I'm almost certain I did, so that flash was not completely wasted, but I think, I thought it was for the Sawyer Gate, so I'm not going to lie, I thought it was a wasted effort regardless. Now, looking forward into this, nice nade will deal with that castle barricade heading into Freezer. Jackie Wu with the line outside of Piano. That could be really sneaky if they manage to find the opportunity. Got to be careful vaulting in. I think that player's all the way back at Tarps. And
You got outline baited.
I got outlined. So
I was feeling it too, but no, not to be. But look, check mark on the attack. Well, Shadow's found an opening kill. 90 seconds in. This is about the par mark of where they need to be able to continue this progress. Now the real question is, do they continue to push the Cocktail, or do they just hold with what they've got and kind of shape up more for that dining? Hysterics is certainly going to make them really think about what they want to do, because ED is off the board.
that's it, but now Hysterics is as well. Jackie Wu has been very quick with some of these trades throughout the last 2 games. Joe goes down as well. It's just Luna and Jordan left to hold on, but look at Souffle's position, being live droned ahead as well. This is utterly devastating for the defense. They've got 1 player up in Cocktail that might be able to use the vertical lines, but Jordan would have to hit some really crisp shots like that, gets caught on the rotate back out. Maybe if it's a runnable little construction hole, it's possible, but not this time. And Luna's quick to follow. Direwolves with 2 unbelievably convincing rounds, and methodically done as well.
Is actually looking very good for Direwolves. I mean, they're 2 very clean rounds, honestly. Like they're doing a really good job at getting map control needed. They're winning their gunfights fairly well, especially in the early rounds, so they're setting themselves up for a lot of success. Being said, I remember feeling this in Chalet, right? Like Direwolves jumped out to that 3-0 lead. They were looking really good. It was on the attack as well. And then it all started to fall apart. So it's always hard to kind of get ahead of ourselves, but based on the form we're seeing right here, Direwolves are up for the challenge on these Cafe attacks.
Warden getting picked out here. Okay.
Attackers
Twitch was
need to
also
locate
6th
and defuse
picked,
bombs.
as they're looking to change things up. Pika has been playing the Flores the last 2 rounds, and it's been pretty fruitful in terms of that clear. Very intrigued to see how that adaptation of the Twitch, the lasers coming in now, might change. Maybe it speeds things up for Direwolves, you never know. But nevertheless, they are looking like the team that we have seen all year long in 2021. This could just be like such a great little booster for them in 2022, Raven. Like, regardless of whether they go to SI or not, they're coming back, no prep. They're still trialing other players, and they are still able to, as a team, come together and have a performance like this, because it's not just what we saw yesterday. I know a lot of the conversation was around Direwolves, like what on earth are they doing? But there's no doubting that their chalet attacks, and now what we are seeing on their cafe attacks, are really convincing.
Certainly has been. So if they can keep this up, they could be looking at a very strong first half performance here and really situating themselves with a great shot at getting into that grand final against Cyclops. Of course, it is going to be all about that consistency. They've got 4 more rounds to make it work. So far, again, classic Cafe. Guess heading to the roof, getting ready to clear down. And slightly different progress this time. Don't recall Pika and another player kind of having a bit more of this east presence. So I feel like this is going to be, I don't know, a bit more of a split push top down. Of course, they do have more ground to cover in this instance, but yeah, I don't know. It's definitely looking like it's going to progress a little bit differently.
It's something that we can take away for Direwolves, is just their ability to continue to change on Cafe as needed for these attacks. We've seen 3 different sites, and on 3 different sites we've seen all different approaches, and we're still going to see the... Again, there's many of the checklists that you need to tick off when you are playing Cafe. Actually, there are so many of them. It's almost like a clubhouse. Maybe less mini-game focus and more actual checklists, but they certainly do play out quite similar in the first minute and a half, and then you start to see things change a little bit, and that's exactly what you're seeing right now. Direwolves have actually pulled off of the white stairs control and what was the dining control, and they're looking to go straight to the damage.
Oh! Far out. That was such a good shot from Joe. He's hit some pillars with the SMG-11. And that is definitely going to make it a little bit tougher there. Losing Jackie Wu, that is the hard breach of the Habana. But final minute here, I didn't actually quite catch it. I think he already started to use his utility. And now Shadows evens that count anyway. This could be absolutely huge if they find another pick.
It is. Oh, he wasn't scoped in. That was the opportunity. But now they're going to be able to... Oh, no, Joe. Joe goes massive here, but Shadow goes, you know what? You can stay there. I'm going to take control of site. Speakeasy shuts down Pika. And all of a sudden, Shadow's going to go absolutely nuclear. Joe has single-handedly dismissed what Direwolves were trying to achieve. And now try you may, Shadow. You have to find 3 players consecutively. Oh, my word. That was only a whisker away from...
Jeez.
Joe! What is going on?
That was pretty scary from Joe. He did a really good job holding that down. That was very close to Direwolves running away with yet another round. Very important one for Invictus to have gotten. They don't want Direwolves to get all that momentum. They don't want Direwolves to jump out to a solid, 5-1 half. Of course, very much still possible, but you want to stay in check with them.
Man, in all honesty, Joe just played incredibly. What a hold in VIP there, ensuring anyone that comes close is absolutely dealt with. There's not much more you could ask from your shotgun player, and now Direwolves, they've got to realize that sure, that round was theirs for the taking. They'd made such great progress on the vertical control and also forcing Joe back in the VIP and allowing that kind of freezer control to be given up. I don't want to say for free, but it almost was for free. It was just the small ones that they kind of tripped over at. So we do move on. And Direwolves, I would dare say, they've got a very good indication as to how they're going to approach the site. The quick note, Pika on the Ashe now instead of either the Twitch or the Flores. They got no doubt whatsoever that Pika can play and rotate as needed.
Yeah, he's a bit of a fragger in his own right. Hasn't had some of the standout performances that we saw from him in Stage 2 and 3, in particular in APAC South, this weekend at least. But yes, loves to flex around on various operators and try and find some openings, find some frags. But speaking of frags, Shadow has been finding a lot of them for Direwolves in this match so far. 3 rounds in, and he is 8-1. That is huge.
Oh, you couldn't ask for much more from Shadow. I think as well the first 2 games as well, he had a very similar impact on Chalet. Villa, I don't think anyone could have done anything for Direwolves, but Chalet definitely there were moments. And now with Invictus extended below as well, putting a bit of pressure on. Direwolves have done a nice job in clearing out Cigar. Don't think they've got the control just yet, so they do need to be careful. Working on old information can always be to your own detriment. But really, that first minute is just so much drone work.
Definitely a lot of drone work and a lot of following up on it too, because you can certainly fall into the trap of wanting to find the info in front of you, losing 2 or 3 drones at a time, and if you're not following it up, and yeah, like you said, old info. This is a cheeky little play here from Luna, tight angle through the train, and bang, you said, that is Pika off the board, so he hasn't made an impact with his Ashe this round. 90 seconds in, Shadow walks into a death trap of Hysterics. This is a great little setup here from IG, a little bit of aggression off the main floor. Hysterics might be on for another one here, just misses.
That would have been like typical classic Hysterics, wouldn't it? Just a cheap little SMG pop on the head of Mining. Again, you can't afford to spray with that, but if you get the tap, pretty much any range, as long as you've got the crosshair there, it is devastating. Now, speaking of devastation, Direwolves really don't have a lot in this. They've got so much work to do. And with a minute left, less than a minute left, and the 2-player disadvantage, make that a 1-player disadvantage, it's still going to be a very tough ask.
Definitely is. IG certainly holding a very good advantage here in this last 40 seconds. They managed to stay patient, don't lose another pick. Certainly going to be challenging. That is a great reopening of the Siri gate next to Jackie Wu. Cuts off Piano for free. He's going to have to either burn that again or tank it. Sounds like he's burnt it, but less than 30 seconds. This looks like it's going to be a tough ask for Direwolves.
Certainly is, and with Speakeasy finding Jackie Wu makes it even tougher. Souffle and ED. ED's had some pretty big clutches, but Hysterics is just stepping up time and time again for IG. This man has been an absolute hallmark for this team. An impressive round again for IG. 2 in a row now. It's getting eerily close to the storyline that we had on Chalet.
Yeah, a little bit. Feels like it could be a 3-3 half for sure here, and that would definitely make the second half spicy. Great job from IG though. You know, we talked about the first 2 rounds from Direwolves in particular. They looked really good, like fairly strong round wins, and IG being able to adapt and overcome those, flip that momentum, all that jazz. They've equalized the score 2-2. They can kind of try and resettle, and if IG end up going out to a 4-2 half lead here, that's really good, honestly, because Direwolves, they were looking hot in those first couple of rounds, and to totally flip that, that means a lot.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
So what are we saying? We're just saying 3-3 is really the pass mark here. Is that what we're agreeing on?
Bomb located by attackers.
I think for Direwolves, I mean, for Direwolves, I actually think they should be trying to go 4-2. Like, I really feel like they've excelled, or they've done fairly well with a lot of these attacks. Like, the first 2 were really great, and that last one was probably the worst attack they've had, but
Located a bomb.
a lot of their attacks have been going well. You know, even that kitchen attack that didn't pan out for them, even though it came down to like a 1v4, I think a lot of the progress was great. They just managed to lose a couple of gunfights, didn't quite flush out Joe as well as they could in that instance. So I think for Direwolves, 4-2. 3-3 would be okay. I think the worst thing for Direwolves is certainly going to be that 4-2 in favor of Invictus.
Well, hard to go off the stats for IG, as you said. Domestically, the tournaments that they play in, they kind of shine on Cathay. So it'd be very hard to look at their 66% win rate on their attacking side and say, oh, well, that's gospel. So, you know, if Direwolves don't get a 4-2 half, well, then they're in serious trouble. I really do think that right now this game is just going to pivot around the first half, like where Direwolves kind of get to, and I 100% agree with you. I think they've played a fantastic first half, even though Invictus have kind of stepped to them in the last 2 rounds. Still seeing some of the notes that we need to from Direwolves to make this kind of a very convincing first half. So a 4-2 could very much be on the cards. Not going to be easy, but it is still there for the taking. They can't let this round slip though. They need that opening pick. That opening pick seems to have been one of the determining factors in the past 2 rounds.
It was surprising to see Pika on the IQ, actually. Something I was saying yesterday is we've really seen a bit of a phasing out of IQ in these attack lineups. Really don't see a lot of IQ much, at least in APAC. And not seeing a lot on the other team where it's going to come in handy. So maybe just for the gun? I don't know, but see whether he has an impact, because yeah, again, Pika really hasn't had the greatest of weekends performances. ED almost blocking those X-Kairos, but good progress so far. 90 seconds in. Again, this is where Direwolves need to make the decision. They're going to progress towards Cocktail and take that control or not.
Oh, you're absolutely joking. That had to have been Pika repelling in there. That is so unfortunate for Direwolves. Well, Invictus don't need the first pick, but they might give another one. Back here! Oh, Souffle! Gives Hysterics a nice little buzz cut there. And now it's evened up 1 apiece in terms of the kills. Joe as well is caught in the backside. Luna's gone down. Things have erupted here for Invictus.
They have. Shadow, he just continues to progress. Jackie has been down, but he's going to be revived. And my word, I can't believe it's all on Jordan, but he's found a quick double. He may have made this doable.
1 nade on Shadow as Jordan creeps back down the hallway, being hard watched by ED. Doesn't hit the shot just yet. Actually, it's ED that's up on the top line. Jordan just missing that shot, and it will not come around again. Direwolves with some really explosive mechanical plays there in the middle of the round.
Yeah, they hit some really important shots, but man, they should not have been able to let Jordan. I think he just flanked up White. I'm pretty sure that's what it looked like. They really just left an opening that IG almost capitalized on, and that could have been so bad. And quite the tilter as well. You know, it's the kind of round that could have been kind of anti-momentum, right? IG have already come back 2 rounds in a row, but to win the 3rd one in that style, yeah, not great. But good for Direwolves. They've managed to get through with that one. 3-3 half is the minimum they can look at now. Honestly, I think that's not too bad. If they manage to get this 4-2, they're certainly going to be in a great spot to be able to close this map out.
Oh, I can't believe we're even saying that. What a journey the last 48 hours have been for the Direwolves. IG looking to strap their boots on. Kick into another gear here. They're going to absolutely need to. This final attacking round, Direwolves could set themselves up monumentally. Remembering, whoever loses this, out. Whoever wins pushes on to the grand final, to which they have an opportunity to play for a spot at SI 2022. And it could hinge on this round, Raven. It could quite literally, if Direwolves are able to make this 4-2, it could really hinge all here for Invictus. Ensuring a 3-3 half would really give them the best possible opportunity to push this and force it into their favor. I'm not convinced yet.
Me either. I'm really feeling like this is going to be a 3-3 half. I don't know, it just feels like that kind of series, feels like that kind of map.
Bomb located by
But
attackers.
look, we'll wait and see. Last time we saw Kitchen cooking, round 3, IG did win it, which is why we haven't seen a repeat come out until now. But they did a really great job, and just to remind you, it was really off the back of Joe. just absolutely cleaning house in this VIP dining section. Saw 3 Direwolves players really try to funnel through and get that control, and he shut it down beautifully. But before that, it was a fairly decent Direwolves attack. Oh, that's a jump out. Oh no, Manic!
That has to be one of the most unfortunate situations I've ever seen. How is that? Like, that's twice on one map that we've seen a team kill. They also did that back on Villa, if you remember. Like, Direwolves just hug a little too close to each other, don't they?
This is a write-off. I tell you what, just write the round off. I think just going for a 3-3. That's unfortunate. I mean, there's nothing worse than dying to a jump out spawn peak, but also to have a team kill come out of it. That is frustrating as heck. But look, Shadow and Souffle, they can try and make this 2v5 work. Shadow has been shut 11 and 2 so far in the map. Certainly could make something work here. They got a lot of time to potentially make something happen.
A lot of time, but with only one crosshair each, it's going to be very complicated. So many angles to try and contest with. It doesn't look like Invictus have any vertical control, but when you give opportunities like this, if you're Invictus, you've got to be really careful. One more kill and all of a sudden 2 versus 3 is so achievable. Still at the 2 versus 4, there's a lot of work for you to do. There's a lot of different angles for you to check as you walk in. But if you dwindle another kill here, I'm not going to say I believe, but I will certainly believe with Shadow going 12 and 2.
And look, 2 offside. I think there's one still playing around VIP, one in code check. So there is a chance. Is a chance. Souffle and Shadow may be able to get through to site. That Yokai, not sure whether the stun was the play. No one playing off the push. The info was certainly helpful. It's going to be lacking now. Coming into this minute, Shadow wants to make the play. He gets tagged up on red. That's him down. And Luna, he finishes off the round and the half for IG. 3-3 it is.
Nicely done. No one over peaking there at the ends, and we've seen how many times 2 versus 4s, 2v4s can very quickly slip away. So really like that. They almost tag team, 2 on one, 2 on the other. There was no chance, but such an unfortunate turn of events at the very start of the round there for Direwolves. And if you're Invictus, you're sitting back thinking, how lucky are we? How good is that? We do see that Bar and Cocktail will be the first defensive site of choice here for Direwolves. Would hedge a bet and say we might see a 6 pick here off the Alibi. I could be wrong. They might try and play toward Piano and aggress there, but I feel like Alibi is such a hit and miss operator, right? Like sometimes you never see the impact, and sometimes you don't see the impact, and it's massive. But regardless, Direwolves are sticking this. So too are Invictus.
I feel like it is Direwolves, but generally, I see a lot of APAC teams, you know, they bring a bit of alibi. They do love a bit of alibi. And I think in particular, there's the thing with the Bailiff, you know, a bit of shotgun util. There's the gun, the MX4 is quite a fun gun to use. I know it had some changes recently, but still, I have seen some players really pop off with it. And of course, there's a shield and alibi, so a bit of utility. So I'm very curious to see how they're going to use it and how they're going to set it up. I wouldn't even be too surprised if Shadow's just like, let me pop off on Alibi, boys. Like, I've got this. Because look, he's having a great game so far, and sometimes you do just need to let those players loose a bit.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Like, if you quote unquote unleash the beast, you don't know what's going to happen, and honestly, you may as well at this point. Yeah. With a player popping off that much, man. Take the reins off and let it go. See what really happens. See what can be achieved. And Invictus at the moment. I will be curious to see how they try to approach this take. Obviously, a bit of a different lineup. They've got not a huge amount of util clear. Obviously, they've got the nades. You know, I mean, there's no barricades or anything like that from Direwolves, so I guess it doesn't matter all that much. But you know, no Roteros. No Zofia charges either. I'm sure they've got some gun 6s in there somewhere. So we'll wait and see for IG how easily they're able to deal with any util the Direwolves have in front of them. But for now, minute off the clock and really hasn't been anything done.
Yeah, a little slower going from IG. That's what we kind of come to expect from them, though. They just generally are a more cautious, careful team. Looks like they are going the traditional push 2, where they're going to try and get this piano control. Not seeing a lot of pressure on the cocktail side, at least, or often if you see a team that's going to try and take a lot of cocktail pressure, they'll go below to reading, right? They'll get that vertical play, and that's just not happening here either. So 90 seconds in, IG, they want piano. They're going to use this Gemini replicator to check whether it's theirs. And it kind of is. There's a lot of kill holes into there, though, so they can't really take it just yet.
Got to be careful. Souffle has been mining for the last minute. Now, I thought maybe he was going to look for a run out on the rappel, but instead, it might be a flank. He could wait until the last possible second. You got to remember, with only a minute left, Invictus haven't been able to find any kills. They haven't been able to deal with a lot of the utility that Diabol's have on that further side of the site. Joe now getting somewhat of a premonition that there might be a player coming from underneath. Still, don't know where Souffle is, don't know what he's doing at the moment, but certainly so. They're keeping them honest for an IG.
They are, and just this is where time is really going to start to stack against IG. Like, they haven't been able to make much progress. They haven't found an opening. ED is the only one tagged, and Dial is actually peeker is a little bit as well. But just coming to the last 30 seconds, I mean, look at this. Jordan's still peeking Pixel. They haven't taken out. There's no pressure on the white hallway. They're going to have to try and push through bar, and Luna's going to have to try and make something happen here on this cocktail window.
Anything is going to happen. No, that's the problem. 20 seconds left. They're going to have to try and force their way in. Speakeasy finds the first kill. He finds a double. What a quick transfer that is. There's trades left, right, and center. ED goes massive from behind the bar. Can he hold on for any longer? Has he allowed Souffle to get into position? No. Souffle is nowhere near being able to deny that plant. Do they have the flank drones? Do they know where he's coming from? Well, the bad thing for Souffle is he has absolutely no idea where these players are. And bit by bit, that time is going to dwindle.
Certainly going to be a tough little 1v2 here for Souffle. He's on low HP as well. I think with both these weapons, potentially just a one-shot. His time is now against him. He tries to push through Cocktail, tries to go the freezer route, tags up Hysterics. Could have been big, but yeah, unlucky for him, he misses. Really good recovery there from IG. Their time almost being their worst enemy, but they made it work.
They certainly did, and that's just a speakeasy thing to do, isn't it? Just such a typical speakeasy entrance. With 20 seconds left, even less than that, I think, by the time they actually got on site. Speakeasy just pops 2 heads so quickly, and you know what? Credit to ED, he was almost up to the task. A little bit hard when you're getting pushed around the bar and you don't have the time to reload, but my oh my. There is a series, and I think it might be in our hands.
Certainly a tight one. That could have gone either way, and that's kind of just been the Diabol's Invictus story for the weekend. Constantly trading maps. They've had 2 full best-of-3 series now. Diabol's coming out the victors yesterday. Still waiting for who will be the victor today. But yeah, it's a really tough one to call at this point. That was a fairly decent opening defense from Diabol's. They did a really good job just ensuring that they didn't give IG any early picks. They held really good map control.
Nice to see the castle being brought for Pika. I am a big fan of Castle ever since they've had the rework. 4 barricades, 9 hits instead. I think that's definitely made it a lot more of a violation, but a viable operator. It just brings so much util, especially when you consider, you know, they've got the bulletproof can as well that just sits wherever you so please. But on Cafe in particular, there are so many choke points. There are so many avenues that can be shut down, and you can funnel teams real quick if they don't use that first minute and a half to properly clear util. It can be quite a detriment. Oof. Here we go again. Same old Diabol's. Cheeky little peek on a Joe. He's down and dusted.
It's not great. Shades of Oregon, I'll tell you what. Joe also been in some really hot IG today. And oh, that's sharp as well. At least they managed to find the trade. But IG, they really are starting to be on the back foot. Bit odd from Souffle, a little bit concerned whether he wanted to progress past the drone or not. And because of that hesitation, IG have managed to equalize this at 3-3. But I think the big damage here is they lost Joe, who's in a bit of form, LMG and the Finker, and they lost Jordan on that hard breach. So that's going to kind of shape things up just a little bit differently. That being said, for the reading dining, I don't think it's too bad for them.
No, I mean, obviously there are some lines that might assist you in doing so, but we saw in the last round what happens when Speakeasy just runs on site. So, still that opportunity there, but certainly Util, you know, 3 flashes, 2 nades that are gone, and whatever other abilities you want to throw on top of it, the Adrenal Surges, the X-Kairos to boot. Now Direwolves can kind of afford to sit back a little bit more passively, anchor on site, force IG to take these fights. I'm sure they won't, I'm sure they'll do typical Direwolves things and force fights, but for all intents and purposes, IG are somewhat of the control right now.
Definitely feels like it coming into the last minute. They got some really good pressure here, or presence I should say, around dining. It's giving themselves that opening option. Luna though, he's camped up outside of reading. So it is Speakeasy with Diffuser. Now he's down outside white. Very split up is the push from IG. I think just really giving themselves this option. It looks like it's going to be more white heavy. It looks like that's where Speakeasy is about to push up now. Maybe potentially find an opening. I'm not quite sure where they're going to take this, but it looks a little bit scary to me, Manny.
Always does, doesn't it?
Oh, no.
Luna. Know what you want to do. You go blind for a couple of seconds there. Speakeasy doesn't win that engagement. Quick trades come out. Pika manages to come out on top of that one. Luna now in a 1 versus 2 has only found 1 kill this entire game. In the 8th round could double the kills very quickly. Praying that hopefully the first peaks. Jackie Wu now is done. Pika sits back, hides, and prays that Luna runs out of time. This is going to be incredibly close. Pika has to hold on to the line. Oh my word, Luna played that really well, but cannot get it across the line in time. Nicely done for Direwolves to bounce back.
Nicely done indeed. And look, they had a really great opening. Almost let that one slip away, but I don't know. IG's attacks are starting to really concern me on Cafe. I mean, they're taking quite a lot of time. And that one just got really split up. I found it really strange that Speakeasy had the diffuser over on white all by himself. Like, considering the bomb site, there's no easy entry point there, and also not particularly easy for either of his teammates to be able to back him up from that position. So, I don't know, a little bit of disjointedness. Maybe they can get on top of it. They're going to get a reattempt at attacking Bar Cocktail.
For a piece. God damn it. This had to go the full distance, didn't it? There was no other way to determine. IG are really being pushed now, and it's really hard not to have that, you know, like, as a caster you think about, you know, like your storylines and all of these kind of things, all the different variations that you can have in a single match, and it's really hard not to look past the fact that Direwolves have come in with 0 prep, that have not been playing competitively for, you know, at least a couple of weeks, are trialing players, are doing this, that, and the other. Whereas Invictus would have been preparing for this. They would have been fighting tooth and nail, trying to figure out the best possible way to find themselves that opportunity their side. And it's just so hard to look at this and say that, you know, IG weren't heavily favoured coming into this game, or the best thing for it yesterday that they played against them. So there's no doubt at all that Direwolves have really put on a bit of a display and have really pushed the series further than I think most of us would have expected it to go.
I think absolutely. I mean, Direwolves, some context, I think I mentioned it yesterday, you know, APAC South Stage 3, they finished 4th overall before playoffs, and they were only 2 points behind IG, who finished 1st and got that direct major invite. So, you know, that's only 1 match. That's 1 regulation victory away from Direwolves potentially making it to Sweden. So that's pretty impressive. But just given the lack of prep, yeah, I think a lot of people wrote Direwolves off coming into the weekend. But they've shown up. Like, they've put in some really solid performances, not just against IG, but they did pretty decent against Cyclops as well. Yep. They might have another crack at that one if they manage to close out this series.
Well, what's scary is I would argue that the CAG game was actually closer than most would have anticipated. The Clubhouse match, again, I'll reiterate, Direwolves were either up 4-2 or 5-3. They were really looking like they were going to convert that game. And likewise, in the 3rd and final map that they ended up playing, there were two 1vx clutches that went the way of CAG. So very, very different stories could have ended up with Direwolves just going straight through the upper bracket against the two best teams in the tournament and finding themselves with that advantage of choosing what veto they were going to use in that grand final. But regardless now, they find themselves here, they find themselves digging deep. And IG, they have to do the same. They have to be in this. In for a penny, in for an eye. Ooh.
Starting to see very similar pattern to what we saw in the first attack round of this half. That was IG. They won the bar cocktail attack, but it just came off a final 10 second push all through bar. Speakeasy really fragged out on that instance. And Serix, I think, did as well. Kind of got them that position. But again, we're into the final minute here. They've taken up some piano and cigar control. Yeah, getting themselves set. But look, it's just very static. And Shadow, he's taken advantage. The flank is shut down by Hysterics at least. But time, it's been one of the biggest enemies of Invictus so far in their attack half. Starting to tick away as we get to this final 30 seconds.
Certainly feels like they're still stuck in a 30-second meta almost. Oh my god, Souffle had the crosshair on Hysterics. We see the kill in the end, off cam regardless. Moving on, Jordan and Speakeasy now both coming up white corridor. Souffle just backs away. Jordan though goes big with a kill. Speakeasy now could clutch this easily, but they decide it's better in numbers, it's better in the buddy system. And by the Lord, DW are back out in front.
And right now, I feel like there has been a shift in control of the game. I'm really starting to get concerned for IG. Looking at this half, they've only won one attack. And like I said, it literally came down to like 10 seconds, like very, very last minute attack. They just managed to win frags. Outside of that, Direwolves have looked far more convincing in the past 2 rounds. And they're only 2 rounds away from taking this map. I feel like, I've got to say, Direwolves are on track right now to booking themselves a spot in this grand final. I'm feeling it.
Man. What? And that, like, all weekend long, it has been that kind of conversation of, yeah, but it's Direwolves. Like, you count them out, that's when they show up. They're just always on the doorstep. They're always waiting to just let themselves in. And I think they've done so. They've done so really convincingly as well. Their attack half was quite phenomenal, and now we're looking at their defensive side, and it's looking like it's following a very similar trend, and IG just struggling to break that right now. And I think you're 100% right there, Raven. I mean, I'm no colorcaster, I'm no analyst, I don't pretend to be someone that knows more about Siege than the average Joe Blow, but it does feel like every single time for IG, they're scrambling in the last 20 or 30 seconds, trying to find those picks, trying to get something done. And provided DW don't give away early picks, they're just kind of left looking at too many directions, taking fights from too many angles.
That they are. So look, I think there needs to be some big changes here for IG. They need to find something to progress these attacks just a little bit more. I don't know. I feel like they're just being a little too thorough. Of course, they're trying to be cautious, get their info. I don't know whether there's any confusion or whatever in the comms. Of course, we never really get any insight into that. But I feel like they're just creating these situations where Direwolves can sit back and relax, or Direwolves can really position themselves around where the IG push is coming from, because it's just so readable. Like, there's just not much happening to disturb the peace of Direwolves in their defenses. So look, here's another opportunity, going down to kitchen cooking, which we haven't actually seen Direwolves defend yet. Maybe this could be an opening for IG to keep them in tabs and keep it at an even scoreline.
Gotta hope it. If you're a fan, you really have to hope it. I'm really interested to see what Jackie Wu gets done here on this chunk. Souffle as well, the Echo. There is so much denial, so much that is going to hinder Invictus. Shadow as well, peeking from white. There was a potential possibility to find a very early pick there, but it looks like they might be trying to go a little bit faster here and try and flash out ED. If not, they have wasted a lot of the flashes. No, there you go. Shield down, ED's comfort has minimized dramatically.
Definitely has, you know, without that shield, it's a little riskier to peek around the corner. Also can't really get the info as easily as he would have got from that shield. So I do like this from IG, and again, like it's what they needed. They needed to make some decisive moves a little bit earlier, just so that Divers aren't feeling comfortable. That being said, it's away. Haven't seen a lot of the push here. Feels like it might be a little bit horizontal. They're really, really focusing on getting ED out of this spot.
Seen many times teams playing for this position, and it really does hinge on how well and how long ED can hold on for. We saw what Joe was able to do. It looks like he might be contested first, or maybe it was just a speakeasy Gemini, you never know. But honestly, this was the position where Joe held on for dear life and wasted so much of that time. ED is caught no matter where he turns to. So honestly, staying alive is critical. Souffle is close on the corner of Freezer, which could do some damage.
Yeah, they've got really good crossfires here to help protect him. Shadow actually has been the opening kill now, done by Hysterics. So quite surprising given the amount of focus that was on the ED, but look, certainly going to help IG's push coming into this last minute. ED is doing a great job burning time. Speakeasy trying to find this coat check position. It's going to be such a critical engagement here down in the VIP dining, and that's ED off the board. Progressing much better is IG, but Jackie Wu is trying to hold it down for Divals.
Felt like ED was somewhat of a lost cause. Not the hand to save the limb kind of thing, or the limb to save the body. Either way, they're going to force their way in. Luna finds the kill on the Jackie Wu, who was caught in coat. Ika waits for that player to peek in, but Joe goes around the corner and does one better. Souffle could really pop off here, could really deny this plant. It is starting to be stuck. Does he have time? Does he have the position? There's a second on it. Just manages to get off. Now he has to get into position. Now he has to try and force a fight. I don't think he's going to be able to cross. There's a player at the bottom of red. Invictus played that round to perfection.
Yeah, much better from Invictus. I really liked the decisive kind of horizontal pressure they're putting onto ED. He wasn't able to swing out and have as much of an impact. And also it meant that at least two other players had to try and protect him from getting hard pushed, because it just felt like that pressure was looming from IG. So look, I think that was much better from them. I would have normally expected, you know, a bit of a classic top down, and I feel like that would have given them about 45 seconds to formulate that execute, and it hasn't gone well for them so far. So I think that was a really good change of tack. And look, they're going to get another chance at reading room and fireplace, which they did in round 8. Didn't go too well for them.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Oh, God. Well, one thing's for sure, we're going to have to go the full regulation. There's no doubt about it. We've got to go into the full 12 rounds, and honestly, the way this has progressed, we're going to OT to decide. We're going the full Monty. 15th round. And, at least Xenox called it a nice quick 2-0, didn't he? He was really confident it was going to be a quick 2-0. Not a chance.
No. Yeah. Longest 2-0 I think I've ever casted, I'm going to say.
He's just so cursed, isn't he? He has to curse everyone.
Yep.
It's just, it's no bueno. It's no bueno. But with really with 2 rounds, let's just play on the fact that there's 2 rounds. These early parts of the round have been so important. If Direwolves can get away without really losing a player, they're generally looking much better. But IG, I think they've started to read into that. I think they've started to understand what is going on. And now they're starting to say, hang on a second. We know that if we don't put the pressure early on, Direwolves can utilize that. They can really start to abuse it. So I would dare say, the first minute is going to be a bit quicker from Invictus, and it's going to look a little bit more menacing.
It's definitely what we would hope to see in the Invictus camp. So this is, again, another pretty important attack that if you're going to take the map control, piano across to cocktail, can't really take your time too much. It's important to be thorough. There's many a trap that you can set on this cafe attack. C4s, for example, can always be of detriment, which there are 2 in the pocket for Direwolves. However, time is pretty important. You need to be getting that cocktail vert around the minute mark, otherwise you start to really lose that time. This is a pretty good delay here from Direwolves with the mirror setup and also the mute jammer on it. So not as simple to clear.
Bomb located by attackers.
See whether they're able to do so. Luna needs to be cautious and play all the way down at the bottom of white. Shadow just sits back and there's an opportunity. Jordan goes incredibly low. That would have been a massive pick to start things off, finding the opening kill. X-Kairos no longer have impacts, and nor do the drones that are on Jordan, but it doesn't fall to fruition. We now get down to that minute mark. 30% of the round left. Oh, Shadow goes big. Shadow goes massive. Shadow could just single-handedly shut down Invictus here.
Yeah, well, could have found himself 3 kills in general just then, but still, really big one taking off Hysterics. That's the big vertical player. That's the whole purpose of this, right? You take Cocktail, you get Vert, and that really starts to squirm the onside opponents. Now, Shadow re-aggressing, probably not the play there, but either way, IG have somehow flipped this one. They're losing time though. Again, 45 seconds to go.
Feels like 45 seconds is going to be enough unless Jackie Wu can go massive, unless he can go nuclear. He has been taken down. One player in toward Laundry now holds on for dear life. C4 rip. Now sounds like it is on the underside, or it's been taken out, something of the sort. Jackie Wu, was that a run out he went for? What a cheeky little bugger he is.
May still be salvaged. I don't know. They might have time here. I don't think they're going to be able to get to him. Less than 20 seconds to go. Execute's coming. It looks like it's going to be reading side.
Oh, Speakeasy looked away for 1 second and then it was enough. Souffle with the shotgun holds up close and goes for the swing, but Joe confirms all 3 of the final kills. It looked like a 1v2, but it's good enough for me. Match point, IG.
Unreal. I think Direwolves will be a bit upset. I mean, obviously they're going to be upset. What am I saying? But that really felt like a round they were about to win. I actually thought they had turned that, but Joe really dug deep on that one, hit some big shots, and unlucky for DW to lose a close-range shotgun fight. Anyway, it's what it is. Invictus, they're on match point here. Direwolves, they need to win this round to push to OT, or their chances at SI are going to be over.
Pushed it to the absolute limit. Souffle, what an effort, but it's just... You couldn't write something better than this. You could not make it a more compelling
Protect your bombs from being
lower
defused by
bracket
attackers.
final. Oh. Things are getting spicy now. Joe having an unbelievable game. Speakeasy and Hysterics doing what they do best. It really is a tale of 2 teams fighting for every last inch. I was filled as if they were somewhat hindered there. They're going to go back to the exact same site, repeat, potentially prove that it was theirs for the taking.
Obviously, Shadow was so close to opening it up for Direwolves, and I would say Shadow is potentially the reason it started to slip for them. He really shouldn't have tried to retake backstall, I don't think. Like, I'm going to be firm with that. I think he could have just contested White Hallway and just slowed the additional progress instead of giving himself up. It was kind of unfortunate timing. He got swung on, but it's a pretty good example of if you've got the advantage, kind of just chill a bit sometimes. Because, yeah, you'd be surprised what can start a bit of a run from the other team. But anyway, live and learn. That's just how it be. And I like from Direwolves that they've decided that this was pretty strong for them. It really was. Like, a lot of that defense was fine. Just they kind of gave a little bit towards that last minute. And IG kind of, they ran away with it. Joe in particular, he really stood up to get those final 3 picks.
The pulse can be so impactful on this map if used correctly. There's so much intel. With all the repels that you eventually end up seeing and all the different hatch drops, you can actually get a fairly decent read early on. You don't have to set up for it necessarily, but you can definitely utilize that. Jackie Wu finds one of the most impactful players on IG, Luna, trying to open up fireplace and take some shots toward the dining area. And again, blinds himself.
Yeah, he hasn't had much luck with his flashbangs, at least on this map. Certainly blinding himself quite a bit, but no, bad start here for IG. Speakeasy off the board is not great, and neither is losing Jordan. This is all in the first half of the round as well. Looks like it might have been a run out from below, so bad to worse at this stage for IG.
We're going to OT, folks. Strap yourselves in. Joe, Hysterics, and Luna, all that remains between SI and OT. Or an SI opportunity, I should say. It's definitely not going straight there. Xenox has noted that it's going to be a quick OT. Someone get this bloke out of here.
Of course.
Someone send this bloke back to... You know what? Just stay on the hosting desk, please.
Yeah, no, I don't think we are going to get a quick OT. That being said, we may not get OT. You know, this series has produced a whole lot of things for us, and certainly this wouldn't be too surprising to see this 3v5 come back for Invictus to progress forward in the bracket here. But once again, time is being their biggest enemy. They have not been able to get any control at all, really. I see Joe looks like he's maybe in train. They're doing a bit of a last-minute rotate, but coming into this 30 seconds,
Jeez.
I think they're shaping up for a reading push, it looks like. Kind of hard to tell.
Question mark?
Yeah.
Here
big
we
question
go.
mark.
Here we go. 20 seconds to decide this series. Is it OT or are we done and dusted here on Cafe? Hysterics looking to go shoulder and shoulder with Luna and Joe. They're going to push in, look to go for that plan. Can they deny it? Absolutely. Joe never had a chance in hell. And a C4 to
jeez.
close things out. A flawless round from Direwolves to force us to OT.
Boy, oh boy, OT. It would be fitting, and of course that's what we get. So we're going to get another 3 rounds here on Cafe to decide this series. Could not be any closer. 2-3-3 halves, and IG, they've got attack on OT, and look, I don't know whether that's an advantage or not at this point.
Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? It's really hard to say which team is kind of, or what side has been favoured. I would probably hedge my bet and say that the defense has looked more convincing than the attack, but I don't know. I just don't know at this point. It really has been throwing us through the ringer, and we get here 3 apiece first half, 3 apiece second half. Is it? It was 3 apiece, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, of course. Direwolves were up 3-2 and through. Well, not through. They got a little bit of an unfortunate side effect of jump out. So, what a way to finish this series.
Well, yeah. And I will say, I actually feel like, of the 2 halves, I felt like Direwolves had a more convincing defense half. So I feel like this is probably good for them in general. I actually feel like they probably could have stopped it from going to OT. Just a couple of rounds there they let slip away, but this is how it is sometimes as well. IG still in it for sure.
Yeah.
Only 2 rounds either of these teams need. IG, they win an attack, they win a defense, and sit. That's all she wrote.
Direwolves, and I don't want to say throwing a lead that they have, but missing an opportunity that is as clear as day. Name a more iconic duo between that. There's been so many times, and again, what you have to remember if you are, watching right now and you haven't been able to check out much of what happened yesterday, this is the 9th map that Direwolves and Invictus have both played together. So there would certainly be an element of fatigue that is really starting to push and press the mental game of this. I have no doubt that throughout this time it has been quite interesting in the team comps because we know Direwolves are going through it at the moment. But here we go. Last 3 rounds to decide the grand finalists. Couldn't be better.
That's right. So, first minute in, of course, it's just about IG getting themselves set up around the piano and really starting to decide how they're going to progress with this push. You can see, he saw the feet of Shadow in through Cigar. We're just deciding how they're going to contest. Didn't actually point out until now. They've gone for Reading and Dine again. This is the 3rd consecutive round that Direwolves will be defending Reading in Fireplace. They won 1 and lost 1, so guess they felt like this was one of their strongest sides.
Well, you know what? You could convince me. Pika! Did you just go for a run out? It's like you're coming down the way here. What are we doing running, jumping out, bolting out of the white window? It now gives a huge opportunity. He was on the pulse as well. There's so much info to gain there. Oh, goodness me.
Yeah, probably not the play. And Shadow, he's been taken down now. He's been so influential for Direwolves. So that's always going to be a big pick. Hysterics winning that one. Coming into the final minute of the round, once again, IG, they're kind of all set up in pretty similar that they have been for a lot of this. It kind of favours Direwolves, but the fact that IG at least have the man advantage this time around, I think it's going to be really big for them. I'm not sure whether Serix is going to go over and at least try and get some vertical pressure on Cocktail before they shape up for the final part of this execute. Traditionally, that's what you would generally see, but this is a fairly decent attacking position to be in at this point.
Direwolves are a lot of things, but traditional they may not be. Holding on now for dear life. Big pick from Hysterics. Jordan was picked back up by the Adrenal Surge, and now in a 4 versus 2. Only 10 seconds left here. There's still a C4 onto Souffle. They have to try and play for this. Jackie Wu is sitting down on the bottom of the corridor, but Luna shutting him down pretty much. Shuts it out all completely. Jackie Wu, though, gives a small little glimmer, a small hope. Shut down quickly, and on we go. Match point once more for IG.
Yeah, once again, match point for IG. It was a really good attack round from them. Time did still start to slip away. You know, they almost gave that opening for Dials that we've seen time and time again, where they just get a couple of quick picks during that execute, and all of a sudden the round fades away. Not the case this time around. I think some really important picks there in the mid round from IG. I think in particular that one onto Shadow. He'd been having some really big rounds on the reading fireplace defenses, so to get him out in that mid round I think was so key. But now, IG, they're going to defend kitchen, service and cooking to try and win this. Now it is the only site that they won twice in their defense half.
Interesting.
So really feeling like this was the Direwolves' Achilles heel on the attack.
Oh, goodness me.
Located by
I am speechless right now. The series we've had between both of these teams, not only today, but yesterday as well. Quick shout out if you do want to see what happened yesterday. Just go and jump on the old Bobber Rooney on Twitch and you can rewatch the action that unfolded. 4 best of 3s played less than 24 hours ago to determine these two teams were fighting. Again, just as a reminder, for the grand final against CAG. That is for SI. Just want to make sure everyone at home knows, you know? You can never be too cautious.
Also had some sympathy for the teams that have just had an absolute, or are having a marathon of a best of 3, and then have to front up for a BO5 against Cyclops to try and get that SI. Like I tell you what, teams really earn their spots at SI. If that wasn't obvious already, it's certainly happening here.
One thing I will quickly add is this is, like, Pika being back on the Flores is actually, I think it's going to be really impactful. You look at the utility of the likes of the castle barricades and also the Banshees. I think that really you could see Pika destroy quite a bit of that util on site, where maybe IG are being forced into a sense of comfort with that util. We'll wait and see though. It's a big, big round. Devastating consequences for Direwolves should they lose it.
Oh yeah, definitely that's the tournament done if they lose this round. High stakes, bit of pressure, certainly the most pressure they've probably felt the entire weekend. First minute in, they've been fairly cautious, but doing a pretty good job clearing utility, but still really haven't denoted exactly where this push might structure up. They seem to have favoured the white push from memory back in the first half. Feels like an eternity ago how long this match has been, but seems like they want to try and get that freezer control and push in, get that default plant just outside of that freezer door. And again, they haven't really made that clear just yet.
Well, 90 seconds and you're starting to get the vertical control. That is the pass mark for the control at the very least, but whether it's going to be a pass mark enough to get them that win and force this to a 15th round, I just don't know. 70 seconds left as they now start to hone in a little bit more on what they're looking to achieve. They've got control of the entirety of the second and third floor. It now all comes down to the pressure they can incubate on the site.
Yeah, they've got really good vertical pressure, like they actually do, but the thing is, if they can't work some picks out of this, I'm not going to say it favours IG, but it definitely is going to make the final part of the execute a lot more squishy and tense and a little bit scary. So they definitely want to try and find an opening here. If they can find this VIP dining player who's getting absolutely surrounded at this point, it'll be what they need to try and push this to max OT.
Nades and flash galore. No, Jackie Wu goes blind, and it might be to his own detriment. Quick trades come in, and now it looks like Direwolves are taking control! Jordan and Luna shut down ED. Shadow falls as well. It's Jackie Wu and it's Souffle. They've got 3 to find. They've got 10 seconds left on the clock. And with Souffle done and dusted, so too are the Direwolves. IG fight tooth and nail and force themselves into the grand final against